Chapter 1852. A duel between the powerful. Since they were under Xian Dou's care, Jian Shen no longer had to worry about them. Immediately, Jian Shen became fearless. Jian Shen began to walk, gradually approaching the estate of the Yang family. At the same time, he emitted a surging presence. With each step, his presence grew stronger and stronger. It was enough to shock the world around him. In the end, it became something akin to a huge sword that had landed on the buildings, possessing great might. The protective formations of the Yang family appeared, engulfing the entire clan. However, at this moment, the powerful defensive formation that was enough to stop the attacks of Overgods actually began to tremble slightly under Jian Shen's tremendous presence. Although the formation was only trembling gently, being nowhere close to shattering, it was only Jian Shen's presence that had made all of this happen. Just his presence alone had shaken up the formations of the Yang family. This was more than enough to demonstrate Jian Shen's strength. Xian Dou, who protected Shi Yu and Mo Yan, changed in expression. He stared at Jian Shen in shock. His understanding of Jian Shen's strength was limited to when he defeated Weiner Yan. However, only now did he suddenly realize that Jian Shen's strength had grown to such a level. Yang Kai, who hovered within the estate, also narrowed his eyes. He finally became slightly stern. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is so powerful. Looking at his presence, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan must have reached late Overgod. He is no longer any weaker than Yang Kai, a late Overgod who has comprehended the laws of the sword. Looks like Yang Kai has provoked a powerful enemy. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has actually grown to have such strength. He cannot be provoked, no matter what. Several powerful senses of the soul gathered together. When they came in contact with each other, they began to converse. The disturbance at the Yang family had raised the attention of all the Overgods in the royal capital. Although they had not personally come, they had been observing the entire situation for quite a while now with the senses of their soul. Jian Shen's presence climbed rapidly. He completely unleashed his level of comprehension that was on par with late Overgods. He said coldly, "Yang Kai, it really isn't much for you to take my pyrogold. Pyrogold may be a supreme quality material, but it's not unique in the saints' world. If you were willing to pay a little, I could have let you have it. However, you never, ever should have touched my sister Mo Yan. She's the patriarch of the Mo clan's daughter, not your sister. Jian Shen, are you really going to treat me as an enemy because of a mere saint emperor? I've shown you more than enough respect. If it were not for the Tian Yuan clan, just her insults to me would have cost her her life. It would be impossible for her to still be alive right now," Yang Kai growled emotionlessly. A mere saint emperor? Cost her her life? Jian Shen sneered, "Right now, I will let you know what kind of consequences you have to bear for touching the mere saint emperor you speak of." Suddenly, Jian Shen exploded with blinding light. He seemed to have become a miniature sun. He wielded the startling rainbow sword that was filled with destructive chaotic force on the inside while being covered with the powers of the laws of the sword on the outside. He stabbed at the Yang family's buildings. Yang Kai's face was extremely sunken. He snorted coldly and appeared outside the protective formations of the estate. A sword had also appeared in his hand, shining with blinding, golden light. He swung the sword, and the power of laws surged, turning into a pillar of golden light that headed towards Jian Shen. Even though Yang Kai used the sword, he had not comprehended the laws of the sword. Rather, he comprehended the laws of metal. Boom! The collision of the two attacks was deafening. Terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, directly dispersing the clouds. Even the protective formations of the Yang family shook violently after enduring the shockwaves. Inscriptions of formations appeared within the royal capital as well, forming an indestructible wall of defense for the entire city. The defensive formations of the royal capital were on the level of Godkings. The shockwaves from Jian Shen and Yang Kai's battle did not even manage to make it tremble. With the formation protecting the city, even if Jian Shen and Yang Kai engaged in a devastating battle here, they would not be able to even leave a scratch on the city. Only the formations of the Yang family estate were on the level of Overgods, as they were not connected to the formations of the city. Jian Shen staggered a few steps back. In his clash with Yang Kai, he had clearly lost the upper hand. However, the presence he gave off only grew stronger and stronger. He seemed like a divine sword. Yang Kai remained in the air. His face was cold. He acted like his first clash with Jian Shen was nothing, as if it were only a casual attack. The person known as the greatest expert below Godking in the divine kingdom of Pingtian is only so much, Jian Shen said coldly. He fused with his sword and radiated with shocking sword qi. He seemed to shoot off like an arrow, killing his way towards Yang Kai aggressively. Yang Kai glanced at the shaking formations of the Yang family below him. He did not continue his battle with Jian Shen. Instead, he flew away from the royal capital. Jian Shen naturally understood Yang Kai's intentions. He did not want to damage the Yang family during the battle, so he chose to fight outside the city. Jian Shen did not hesitate. With a thought, the startling rainbow sword appeared beneath his feet. With his arms crossed, he rode the sword away, disappearing from the royal capital as a streak of light. After Jian Shen and Yang Kai vanished, all the Overgod ancestors who usually spent their time in seclusion and rarely made public appearances chose to emerge from their clans without any hesitation at all. They followed Jian Shen and Yang Kai and headed outside of the city by hovering along the ground. The defensive formations within the city restricted the senses of their soul. Once Jian Shen and Yang Kai left the city, they would have left the range that the senses of their souls could encapsulate as well. As a result, they were forced to emerge from seclusion. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan seems to have lost the upper hand. Looks like he's still a little worse than Yang Kai, what do you know? Yang Kai loves his pride and dignity. He knew that many of us were watching in secret. He didn't want to embarrass himself, so he secretly used a battle skill. However, because he did not use the full might of the battle skill, you all failed to sense it. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Shen, lost the upper hand because he did not use a battle skill like Yang Kai. Instead, he did not use any tricks at all. In other words, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan seems to have fallen for Yang Kai's scheme. That's indeed the case. However, if he didn't do that, Yang Kai probably wouldn't have been able to gain an upper hand at all. He would have only been able to match Jian Shen at most. After all, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is an overgod who has comprehended the laws of the sword. He possesses an advantage in terms of laws. However, why do I feel that the patriarch's cultivation level is a little low? It doesn't even seem like he has reached Overgod. I remember back in Godking Duanmu's dwelling, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had reached early or mid-Overgod in terms of comprehension, while his cultivation level remained the same as a god. After so many years, his comprehension level has reached late Overgod, but his cultivation level remains at the level of a god. I can never understand why this is the case. Chapter 1853, Yang Kai's defeat. All the overgods who hurried out of the city communicated with each other through their souls. Whenever they mentioned Jian Shen, they would basically be filled with caution and fear. Under Xian Dou's lead, Mo Yen and Shiyu were also taken out from the city. None of them were willing to miss the battle between the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Shen, and the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai. Quite a few gods had followed them out of the city. It was not only the overgods. Their faces were all filled with excitement and eagerness. To them, battles between overgods were extremely rare. All they needed to do was watch, and they would have the opportunity to comprehend the laws of overgods, benefiting them greatly. They could even make some minor breakthroughs and reach a new height in strength. There was a wasteland 100 kilometers from the royal capital. Booms already roared through the skies as powerful pulses of energy collided rapidly. They wreaked havoc in the region, forming a terrifying storm. Jian Shen and Yang Kai had already begun their intense fight. Dazzling light surrounded both of them. A protective light formed from the laws of the sword surrounded one of them. Sword chi permeated his surroundings as he shot out sharp sword chi. Golden light surrounded the other person. It was extremely resplendent. He controlled the laws of metal among the 5 elements, which turned into huge strands of sword chi. It was a shocking and extremely imposing sight. Jian Shen, your strength really has grown quite a lot after a few dozen years. No wonder you're so arrogant. However, although you've reached late Overgod in terms of comprehension, which is comparable to me, it's a pity that your cultivation level is lacking. I'll show you my true strength now, Yang Kai bellowed out. The sword in his hand shone with bright, golden light as his origin energy as a late Overgod fused with the laws of metal, creating a 300-meter-long golden sword chi. At this moment, all the Overgods had arrived from the royal capital. All of them stood in the distance as they watched the duel between the powerful. All of them were extremely cautious. That's Yang Kai's 7th grade battle skill of the Truth Tier, Great Adamant Sword Chi. I never thought Yang Kai would use such a powerful battle skill right from the start, a middle-aged man said in surprise from the distance. He was an Overgod of the royal capital. Jian Shen has managed to pressure Yang Kai. Although Jian Shen is lacking slightly in terms of his cultivation, he can make it up slightly with the advantages of the laws of the sword. As a result, he has reduced the difference in strength between him and Yang Kai. If Yang Kai doesn't want to end the battle quickly with a battle skill, they can probably fight for days and nights without achieving an outcome, Xian Do explained from nearby. Mo Yen and Shiyu currently stood behind him. The two girls seemed worried. Mo Yan's pale face took a rapid turn for the better now. She had ingested a healing pill from Jian Shen earlier, and recently, Xian Do had given her another pill of quite a high grade. Her condition improved rapidly under the effects of the two pills. Daluo sword. Jian Shen did not shy away from Yang Kai's battle skill. He used a sword technique and also produced a golden sword chi. The golden sword chi was tiny. It was less than 3 meters in length, far smaller than Yang Kai's sword chi that stretched for hundreds of meters. Boom! However, when the two sword chi collided, they actually dispersed together with a deafening sound, scattering into the surroundings as residual sword chi. Terrifying ripples of energy caused the surrounding space to actually twist slightly. Even after using a 7th grade battle skill of the Truth Tier, Yang Kai only managed to reach a stalemate with Jian Shen's Daluo sword in this clash. Tai sword technique. Jian Shen bellowed out. The startling rainbow sword in his hand erupted with sword chi. The white light engulfed him, and he and the sword seemed to have fused together. It was like they had managed to achieve true fusion. They turned into a streak of light and dove into the violent ripples of energy, shooting towards Yang Kai aggressively. Not only did Jian Shen do everything quickly, but he moved extraordinarily fast as well, completely catching Yang Kai off guard. He used the Tai sword technique right after using the Daluo sword. By the time Yang Kai had sensed it all, Jian Shen had already arrived near Yang Kai as a ball of light. Indestructible body of gold. Yang Kai was extremely experienced in battle as well. As he called out, his body became as resplendent as gold. The laws of metal formed powerful layers around him to protect him such that he seemed to have equipped a set of glistening armor at that moment. He seemed quite impressive. Jian Shen and the startling rainbow sword stabbed at Yang Kai together. The powerful sword chi clashed with Yang Kai's laws of metal. In the end, the laws of the sword still managed to gain the upper hand. Yang Kai's layers of laws of metal collapsed one by one under the powerful sword chi. The indestructible body of gold failed to last even a second. The startling rainbow sword punched a fist-sized hole through it, and under Jian Shen's control, the sword stabbed into the hole he created. Spurt. Blood splashed into the air. The startling rainbow sword penetrated Yang Kai's body, and its tip directly emerged from Yang Kai's back as it dripped with blood. It continued to shine with beautiful light. Clearly, it had not lost any power at all. Yang Kai's gaze became terrifyingly cold. Anger surged from his heart, and at the same time, the golden sword in his hand directly stabbed into Jian Shen's chest with the laws of metal. It also penetrated Jian Shen. This was a powerful strike from a late Overgod. Although Jian Shen had already pushed his chaotic body to the limits, he was unable to stop the attack. Jian Shen's face did not change. He did not pay any attention to the sword that had stabbed through his chest. All he did was secretly circulate his chaotic force so that he could heal as soon as possible. It was also at this moment that the brutal powers of the laws of metal suddenly erupted within Jian Chen's body. It rampaged about like a wild horse as it destroyed the signs of life within him. Jian Chen did not panic. He gathered the power of the laws of the sword to fend off the laws of metal within him. At the same time, he formed another seal with his left hand, condensing a second strand of Daluo's sword in a short instance before shooting it at Yang Kai. Divine Finger of the Void-Crushing Meteor. At the same time, Yang Kai used a battle skill. He directly extended a golden finger. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed when he was faced with the finger. Yang Kai's finger seemed to have become a huge meteor to him, crushing towards him with incomparable speed. Wherever the meteor passed by, space seemed to show signs of being crushed and destroyed. The power of the finger was extraordinary. It shook the surroundings, and it seemed to possess the power of stars. It was extremely terrifying. The expressions of the observing Overgods all changed when they saw the finger. That's the 8th grade truth tier battle skill, Divine Finger of the Void-Crushing Meteor. I never thought Yang Kai would have managed to grasp this battle skill and be able to use it. This battle skill is one collected by the Divine King. It's stored in the Royal Book collection. Only Overgods who have made a certain level of contribution to the kingdom will have the opportunity to comprehend it. It's just a pity that although we've tried to comprehend it, we've yet to comprehend the battle skill's essence, so we're unable to use it. Even the battle skills used by a few God Kings are at the 8th grade. With a great boom, the ground shook for a total of 3 times. Jian Chen's Daluo sword directly dispersed when it landed on Yang Kai's finger. Jian Chen became injured from the attack. He vomited blood and struck the ground heavily. However, he rose back up into the sky like nothing had happened soon afterwards. His presence was powerful, and his battle intent was even more shocking than before. There was not the slightest hint of haggardness on his face. Instead, he grew bolder and bolder as he fought. It was as if he was not injured at all. Yang Kai bathed in the golden light as he used his laws of metal to eliminate the laws of the sword within him. When he saw Jian Chen rise up in an extremely courageous fashion, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He was extremely shocked inside. How is this possible? How? The Divine Finger of Void-Crushing Meteor is nothing to laugh at. He must be heavily injured after taking on that strike. How can he act like he's completely fine? Yang Kai found this to be unbelievable. This was because he believed Jian Chen would become incapacitated after taking on the battle skill because the battle skill was truly extremely powerful. In ordinary situations, only God Kings could grasp it. However, the situation was the exact opposite. Even though Jian Chen was in a horrible shape, with blood dripping from his mouth, his eyes shone brightly, and his presence roared. He did not seem like he was injured at all. However, Yang Kai's face turned cold soon afterwards. Fierce light shone in his eyes. He gripped his sword tightly with his right hand as origin energy erupted from it. Surrounded by the laws of metal, he swung his sword as hard as he could at Jian Chen. It was also at this moment that Jian Chen suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning. He crossed the distance in a flash, arriving before Yang Kai. He really had reached a speed that surpassed the reaction time of all the gods. Linear lightning release. Yang Kai's eyes widened. His face was filled with shock as Jian Chen directly passed through his body, sword and all. Jian Chen created a bowl-sized hole in Yang Kai's chest. In the distance, all the Overgods, including Shen, as well as the gods who had gathered here later, witnessed what had happened. They all become completely stunned as shock flooded their faces. What did they just see? They saw Jian Chen's huge body directly pass through Yang Kai's body like a sword, and he only left a bowl-sized hole behind. What happened just then had surpassed the limits of many people's understanding. They found it to be unbelievable because a bowl-sized hole was not even the size of a human head. How could a body fit through that? Spurt. Yang Kai spewed blood from his mouth, which turned into a bloody mist that drifted down slowly. This was the blood of a late overgod. Every single droplet gave off a pulse of energy. Chapter 1854. A God King intervenes. Yang Kai's face was pale. Only he understood the terror of Jian Chen's previous strike. Jian Chen had passed through his body as lightning, obliterating his organs, and reducing large regions of his ribs into powder. He was injured extremely heavily. He turned around with great difficulty. Yang Kai's eyes were filled with regret as he stared at the distant Jian Chen in anger and humiliation. He said, "What a powerful battle skill." "What is it?" "The linear lightning release." Jian Chen responded coldly. He made his way through the air with the startling rainbow sword, making his way towards Yang Kai step by step. "The linear lightning release, the linear lightning release. It really is like lightning, unbelievably fast," Yang Kai murmured. He was unwilling to accept the outcome of their battle. It was not because he feared defeat. Rather, he just could not let himself, an expert who had been known as the greatest expert below God King in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, lose to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan who had only made a name for himself several dozen years ago. Suddenly, a sliver of resolution appeared in Yang Kai's eyes. His gaze towards Jian Chen instantly became filled with heavy killing intent. "The battle stops here." At this moment, an ancient voice boomed in the surroundings. It was filled with a might that could not be denied. As the voice rang out, a tremendous and terrifying presence crushed down from the sky. Whether it was Jian Chen or Yang Kai, they both felt like they now shouldered a huge mountain before the terrifying presence. They even struggled to move freely. A God King. Jian Chen thought, but he did not show any surprise at all. A white-robed old man appeared high in the sky silently. His appearance was nothing special. However, it was the owner of that face with no special features that gave off the tremendous presence, which suppressed Jian Chen and Yang Kai. Of course, Jian Chen and Yang Kai did not resist either. "Greetings to the Grand Imperial Protector." In the distance, the observing overgods, including Xian Dou, all bowed at the same time without any exceptions. Their faces were filled with shock. Shi Yu and Mo Yen, who stood behind Xian Dou, were both surprised. Without any hesitation, the two of them bowed deeply at the old man, greeting him courteously. There were many gods that had gathered behind them. Right now, the entire group had already bowed. All of their eyes burnt with excitement. God Kings were supreme experts that rarely ever appeared. Even they, gods, would not necessarily be able to see a God King personally in their entire lifetimes. The Grand Imperial Protector's appearance allowed them to witness a God King's awe, making them feel like they had lived a life with no regrets. Yang Kai calmed down. He bowed at the Grand Imperial Protector stiffly. No matter how regretful he felt, no matter how powerful his killing intent was, he had to suppress it all now. "Is this the Grand Imperial Protector?" Jian Chen raised his head to study the Grand Imperial Protector after bowing. This was the first time he had seen one of the two great God Kings of the Divine Kingdom. The Grand Imperial Protector hovered in the sky as he stared at Yang Kai and Jian Chen with a deep gaze. He said calmly, "I already know why all of this happened." Yang Kai returned the pyrogold to Jian Chen. "Grand Imperial Protector, I purchased the pyrogold from an elder of the Tian Yuan clan." "It already belongs to me," said Yang Kai. His reluctance to return the pyrogold was directly related to his pride. Jian Chen understood that his fight with Yang Kai had reached a conclusion now that the Grand Imperial Protector was here. As a result, he put the startling rainbow sword away and secretly began to circulate his chaotic force to heal. He stared at Yang Kai coldly with his arms crossed. The Grand Imperial Protector looked at Yang Kai deeply from above. He said, "You two are the pillars of the Divine Kingdom. If you keep on making trouble like this, it will be the Divine Kingdom that has to bear any losses. The Empyrean demon cult is about to overrun the Divine Kingdom of 3 cauldrons soon, and there's only a Divine Kingdom of 9 stars that separates us from them. Our kingdom is in danger, so we must not have internal strife at a time like this and weaken ourselves." The Grand Imperial Protector took out an embroidered box from his space ring and said, I just happen to have a piece of pyrogold on me. Yang Kai, I'll gift the pyrogold to you, so you'll have all the materials to forge your supreme quality saint artifact. Give the piece in your hands right now to Jian Shen. This time, the Grand Imperial Protector directly told him to hand it over to Jian Shen and not return it to Jian Shen. As a result, Yang Kai had a way out of the situation without disgracing himself. Yang Kai was a late overgod after all. He was an important pillar to the kingdom, so even someone as great as the Grand Imperial Protector had to show him some respect. Particularly in a period where the threat of the Empyrean demon cult loomed. At a time like this, a late overgod was several times more important. Yang Kai hesitated slightly before accepting the Grand Imperial Protector's pyrogold in the end. He took out the pyrogold he had taken from Shiyu from his space ring and tossed it to Jian Shen. He said coldly, Jian Shen, I'll gift the pyrogold to you because of the Grand Imperial Protector. It's not a gift. You're returning it to me. Here are your 200,000 high-grade divine crystals. Jian Shen stressed seriously and tossed a space ring back at him. Jian Shen continued, the pyrogold is secondary to our fight. The main reason is because you touched my people. Without a single doubt, Jian Shen was announcing to the world to never provoke the Tian Yuan clan through his words. Yang Kai stared at Jian Shen coldly. After snorting, he bowed towards the Grand Imperial Protector again before leaving. He returned to the royal capital with a sunken face. He still had trump cards he had not used, but he knew that this applied to Jian Shen as well. At the very least, he still had not used those 2 strands of terrifying sword chi yet. Jian Shen, now that the matter here has been resolved, please come to the royal palace. There are matters that we want to discuss with you. The Grand Imperial Protector dismissed his presence. He seemed to have turned back to an ordinary old man. After saying that to Jian Shen, he directly departed, returning to the royal palace. Brother Jian Shen, you really have reached a whole new level of strength after being gone for a while. I never thought that you would possess such daunting strength. You've even defeated Yang Kai. Xian Do walked over and spoke warmly. The overgods who had watched on from the distance also came up to talk to Jian Shen after hesitating slightly. Fear lingered in all of their eyes. They all understood that from today onwards, there was the Tian Yuan clan aside from the Yang family that could be known as one of the most powerful clans in the entire kingdom. Jian Shen greeted them before looking towards Shiyu and Mo Yan. Aside from Yang Kai, did anyone else touch you? The overgods from the royal capital all leapt in fright when they heard Jian Shen's words. Was he still not satisfied after his battle with Yang Kai? Was he looking to punish other people as well? Immediately, all the overgods began to regard the Tian Yuan clan as an existence that could not be provoked. Yang Kai had only injured a mere Saint Emperor, yet Jian Shen engaged in such a furious battle with him. If someone with even greater status had been offended, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would basically come for their lives. There's also the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Aoran, Yang Lianxin, and 4 elders. The 6 of them used their presences to hurt Mo Yan, said Shiyu. She resented the Yang family deeply. Since her patriarch was so powerful, there was no reason for her to fear these people anymore. In the distance, the expressions of the elders of the Yang family all changed, starting with Yang Aoran. They immediately wanted to flee. How can I let you return unscathed after you've hurt my sister? Jian Shen said coldly. He extended his finger a total of 6 times, and 6 strands of resplendent sword chi shot towards the gods who had ganged up on Shiyu and Mo Yan. It punched through their bodies, causing them to wail miserably. They used all the power they had to flee as quickly as they could. Jian Shen did not take their lives. He only injured them as a slight punishment. Chapter 1855. A terrifying sea of consciousness. There was a quiet garden that took up an extremely large area within the royal capital. Jian Shen, Shiyu, and Mo Yan stayed there temporarily. There were a total of 100 servants who served them in the courtyard. An overgod from the royal capital had eagerly given the courtyard to Jian Shen after he learnt that Jian Shen had no place to stay in the royal capital. He was extremely enthusiastic. Originally, Jian Shen wanted to remain within an inn, but he found it difficult to turn down this Overgods' kindness, so he could only settle down in there with Shi Yu and Mo Yen. However, he did not accept it as a gift from the Overgod. He only planned on staying here temporarily. Jian Shen stood in the center of one of the rooms. He had taken the crystal casket that held Kaya out from the Bright Moon Divine Hall, placing it onto the floor gently. At the same time, an embroidered box covered with formations appeared in his hand. As he removed the layers of formations, a mysterious presence began to permeate the surroundings. Sensing the presence, the eyes of the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast that lied on the crystal casket immediately lit up. It fluttered its wings as it flew around Jian Shen. Its clever little eyes were filled with eagerness. Jian Shen stared at Kaya, who laid in the casket. He murmured, "Kaya, you've slept for so long. I hope I can wake you up this time so that you can open your eyes and have a look at the tremendous saint's world." Jian Shen slowly removed the lid of the box. An ink-black lotus laid in there quietly. It had a total of 9 petals, and each petal possessed wondrous patterns that seemed to resonate with the world as if the laws of the world were woven into them. The flower was the soul-drawing lotus that Jian Shen had managed to purchase from the Imperial United Merchants Association after paying a hefty price. Jian Shen removed the lotus from the box carefully and slowly placed it into Kaya's mouth. At the same time, he paid close attention to Kaya's reaction. Jian Shen's senses of the soul clearly observed the pitch-black lotus slowly melt in Kaya's mouth. It turned into an inky liquid that Kaya absorbed, and all of it gathered at the location of her soul. 10 minutes later, the lotus vanished from Kaya's mouth. Kaya had completely absorbed the medicinal effects of the lotus. Jian Shen stared at Kaya closely as he watched for any responses. The soul-drawing lotus was of quite a high grade among the heavenly resources that could deal with problems of the soul. As a matter of fact, it could be considered as high grade. If it was unable to awaken Kaya, he would really be out of options. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Time passed silently. However, Kaya's lack of response worried Jian Shen. It was as if the soul-drawing lotus did nothing to her at all, and she was just like before. Right now, in Kaya's head, within the depths of her sea of consciousness that was impossible for Jian Shen to discover, there was a tremendous region. It seemed to be as large as the universe. This was Kaya's sea of consciousness. If Jian Shen could see her sea of consciousness, he would definitely be completely stunned. Kaya was clearly only a saint emperor, but her sea of consciousness had reached an unbelievable size. It could literally be described as boundless. Let alone god kings that had reached the peak of godhood, but even primordial realm experts would experience an overwhelming uproar if they learnt that she possessed such a large sea of consciousness. Let alone god kings, even those who had reached the primordial realm would only possess a sea of consciousness 1/10 of Kaya's size. It was also at this moment that a speck of light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black, boundless sea of consciousness. It rapidly expanded, and a few seconds later, it turned into a small sun. It shone with all the colors of the spectrum radiantly, illuminating a small region of the sea of consciousness. After the rainbow ball of light appeared, the sea of consciousness began to tremble gently. Strands of terrifyingly powerful traces of the laws of the world began to expand from the light, emanating in all directions. It seemed to be trying to fill up the entire sea of consciousness. However, the sea of consciousness was simply too vast. The ball of rainbow light was unable to illuminate every corner, so the traces it gave off were naturally nowhere near enough to fill up the entire place. Still, not enough. Suddenly, there was a sigh in the silent sea of consciousness. It was extremely weak. As a matter of fact, it even struggled to string the 3 words together. At the same time, Jian Shen became excited because he saw Kaya's eyes tremble gently as if she was trying to open them. "Kaya, Kaya, wake up," Jian Shen called out emotionally in hopes of waking up Kaya, who had already remained unconscious for over 100 years. At this moment, Kaya's lips quivered gently. They moved slowly as if they were struggling to form a few words. Still, not enough. These 3 words were extremely quiet, just like a mosquito. Ordinary people would struggle to hear it even if they placed their ears right next to her mouth. However, Jian Shen was no ordinary person. Rather, he was a mighty overgod. Even though Kaya's voice was quiet, he still heard all of her words clearly. Still not enough? What do you mean? Jian Shen was surprised and confused. After mouthing the 3 words, Kaya fell silent again, returning to her previous state. Still not enough? Is a soul-drawing lotus not enough to wake up Kaya? Jian Shen pondered with furrowed eyebrows. However, his eyes widened soon afterwards, as he found the matter to be unbelievable. How is that possible? Even in the saint's world, the soul-drawing lotus is quite an impressive heavenly resource. It's more than enough to heal even godhood experts. Kaya is just a saint emperor, so how is it not enough to heal her? Jian Shen rejected his hypothesis, as it was just too unbelievable. However, he began to hesitate soon afterwards. Uncertainty flooded his face. Finally, he gritted his teeth and removed one of the final stalks of amethyst spiritual bamboo from his space ring despite his reluctance. He extracted the sap and dripped them between Kaya's eyebrows. If the soul-drawing lotus isn't enough, a droplet of this sap should be enough. The sap contains Xianhuang Qi, so it's worth no less than the soul-drawing lotus in value. It might even be worth more, Jian Shen thought. After the sap seeped into Kaya's head, the rainbow light within the depths of Kaya's sea of consciousness immediately shone even brighter. At the same time, the traces of the laws of the world expanded some more. The sap was not necessarily useless on Kaya. Jian Shen just needed to use far more of it if he wanted to wake Kaya up. However, Jian Shen did not know about that. Seeing Kaya's complete lack of response, he could not help but sigh and feel despair. However, his eyes lit up soon afterwards, and he became reinvigorated. He said, "Looks like the sap is useless, so I need a second soul-drawing lotus or other heavenly resources that can heal injuries to the soul. Only then will Kaya wake up." Jian Shen did not fear a shortage of soul-drawing lotus. If one was not enough, he could find a second, a third, or even a fourth. He feared that Kaya would not respond after absorbing a soul-drawing lotus, so he would have no idea about her condition. If that happened, he would have to choose some other method to try and save Kaya. The 7-colored heaven-devouring beast lied down on the crystal casket again. It seemed dispirited because Jian Shen failed to wake Kaya. "I better go to the royal palace and ask the divine king. As a god king, the divine king will know much more than any overgod. Let's see if I can learn about any heavenly resources that can heal the soul from him." Jian Shen put the crystal casket away and strode out. Chapter 1856. The Divine King. The royal palace of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian was located in the center of the city. It seemed to sit on the heart of the royal capital. Within a radius of 10 kilometers, all pedestrians and carriages were forbidden. It was a forbidden zone that hid countless experts who secretly protected the place. The entrance to the royal palace was always guarded by members of the Royal Divine Army on their flaming 3-flamed divine horses. They possessed the prestige of the royal palace. Squads of soldiers from the Royal Divine Army patrolled the interior of the royal palace. They moved around with their heads held high and a firm presence as they patrolled every inch of the palace in a certain formation. The entire royal palace emanated with a ruler's presence. It seemed grand and almost holy. Jian Shen directly made his way towards the royal palace. As soon as he stepped into the forbidden zone around the palace, he immediately sensed several dozen senses of the soul basically gather on him simultaneously. Jian Shen knew they came from the hidden guards, so he did not conceal his presence. He continued to walk, striding towards the royal palace. However, the owners of the senses seemed to recognize Jian Shen as well. They retreated as soon as they came in contact with Jian Shen and never appeared again. They allowed Jian Shen to approach the royal palace. After being identified, Jian Shen entered the royal palace without any obstructions. 2 soldiers on their 3-flamed divine horses led the way for Jian Shen through the royal palace. In the end, he entered a beautiful, fragrant garden. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, His Majesty is waiting for you in the royal gardens. We will be dismissing ourselves first. The two soldiers clasped their fists at Jian Shen together. They were extremely polite, and they backed off silently. Jian Shen moved through the royal gardens alone. The royal gardens were extremely large, and it was filled with various exotic flowers that gave off an exhilarating fragrance. There are origin-gathering flowers. Jian Shen's eyes narrowed. He discovered an exotic type of flower that had bloomed facing the sun just like a sunflower. Its existence managed to gather the surrounding origin energy. If people cultivated near the flower, they would be able to progress several times faster. Jian Shen had learned about the origin-gathering flower from Xian Do. It was extremely valuable, with basically all demand and no supply. Even many overgods did not possess them. He had never expected to see them in the royal gardens. Moreover, it was not just a single flower. There was over a dozen of them. Jian Shen also recognized a few more exotic flowers that rarely appeared on the market aside from the origin-gathering flower. Every single one of them was extraordinary, and they all had their uses. They filled him with great eagerness as he desired them. If I could move the royal gardens to the Tianyuan clan, I'll be able to cultivate a large number of experts before long, Jian Shen thought. Just the royal gardens alone was priceless. However, the worst part of it was that the exotic, priceless flowers could only be admired in the royal palace. God kings sure are wealthy, Jian Shen sighed emotionally. He admired the flowers as he quickly advanced towards the depths of the gardens. He could vaguely feel a presence in a certain direction. As Jian Shen approached it, he saw two white-robed people seated in a pavilion from afar. One of them was an old man with gray hair. His appearance was nothing special. The presence that Jian Shen felt came from the old man. The other person was a dignified, middle-aged man. He possessed the presence of a ruler. Even without trying, all his actions made him seem like royalty. He could command respect with simply a stare. Jian Shen had seen the ordinary old man before. He was the Grand Imperial Protector. However, when Jian Shen saw the middle-aged man, his eyes narrowed suddenly. He was still able to sense an obscure presence from the Grand Imperial Protector. However, Jian Shen could not sense anything from the middle-aged man across him. As a matter of fact, if Jian Shen closed his eyes, he would not even be able to sense his existence. He seemed to be like air. This left Jian Shen greatly shocked. After all, he had reached the level of late Overgod in terms of comprehension. His soul was so powerful that even when the Grand Imperial Protector hid his presence, he was confident about detecting a trace of it. However, the middle-aged man clearly did not try to hide his presence, yet Jian Shen was unable to sense his existence at all. This divine king is very powerful. He's much more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector, Jian Shen concluded. Jian Shen, since you've come, why were you just standing there? Come, sit. The Grand Imperial Protector gestured at Jian Shen with a smile. Right now, he seemed very approachable, just like a kind old man. He did not give off the airs of a god king at all. Jian Shen made his way over and bowed. Patriarch Jian Shen of the Tianyuan clan greets your majesty and the Grand Imperial Protector. The divine king's gaze landed on Jian Shen. Just his gaze alone made Jian Shen's heart tighten uncontrollably. At that moment, he suddenly felt like all the secrets on him had been revealed to the divine king. Of course, that was only what he felt. It was not what actually happened. However, even with that being the case, Jian Shen became much more vigilant. Not only was the divine king more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector, but he was in fact much, much more powerful. Suddenly, the divine king smiled. Jian Shen immediately felt like he was standing in a spring breeze as if all the haze in his heart had been blown away. Jian Shen, I've heard of you several dozen years ago. I've always been paying attention to you since then. Every day, I anticipated the day that I could meet you personally so that I could properly lay my eyes on the Overgod who comprehended the laws of the sword and managed to cause such a great disturbance in God King Duanmu's dwelling. I've finally got to meet you, the divine king smiled. He stared at Jian Shen with a strange light before sighing gently. Seeing really is much more than hearing. Who would have thought that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, the person who caused such a great disturbance in God King Duanmu's dwelling, defeated Formation Master Chanlong, and stood up to Yang Kai, has not even cultivated for 1,000 years. It really is astonishing. Astonishing, I say. Spurt. The Grand Imperial Protector spat out his tea as he stared at the Divine King in shock. He said with his tongue tied, Ping Tian, what did you say? Jian Shen hasn't even cultivated for 1,000 years? Don't joke with me. How can I accept such an unbelievable piece of news? If you don't believe me, you are welcome to ask Jian Shen yourself, the Divine King said. His gaze towards Jian Shen was filled with amazement as if he was studying a great treasure. Jian Shen, is that true? Have you really cultivated for less than 1,000 years? The Grand Imperial Protector stared at Jian Shen as he spoke in a hurry. This news was simply too frightening. If it made it out, it would be enough to take the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets of the Saints' world by storm. Countless peak clans and eternal empires would all move out for him. Chapter 1857, The Divine King's Request. It has almost been 1,000 years, Jian Shen responded reluctantly. He felt extremely helpless inside. It would be reasonable if others discovered his length of cultivation if his cultivation realm was low. However, he was clearly a late overgod now, yet the Divine King still managed to tell from a single glance. It was as if the amount of time he had been cultivating was as transparent as glass before a god king. However, fortunately, the Grand Imperial Protector failed to see through how long he had been cultivating. At the very least, this made Jian Shen realize that not all god kings could tell how long he had been cultivating for. Becoming an overgod in less than 1,000 years would definitely take the Saints' world by surprise. Even the prodigies that peak clans invested heavily in would struggle to achieve such a speed of cultivation. What a prodigy! This speed of cultivation might be unprecedented in the Saints' world. I never thought I'd personally witness such a miraculous existence, the Grand Imperial Protector sighed in amazement. His eyes shone as he looked at Jian Shen as if he was looking at a great treasure. However, what he did not know was that Jian Shen had only been cultivating for roughly 200 years. He said close to 1,000 years instead so that it would not be too shocking. However, even that was enough to amaze the Grand Imperial Protector and the Divine King. Jian Shen, with your talent, it's a piece of cake for you to join the Eternal Blood Sun Empire of the Southern region. If you're willing, even joining the Tian Empire of the Central region would not be difficult. You will be able to develop better in such places. Staying in my tiny divine kingdom of Ping Tian is burying your talent, the Divine King said to Jian Shen. Jian Shen said after some thought, Your Majesty, you are correct. If I join a powerful organization, I'll basically have complete access to whatever heavenly resources and cultivation resources I want. However, there are always downsides when there are upsides. In exchange for the nurturing, I will lose my freedom and become trapped under many rules. I would no longer be as free as I am right now. Everyone has their own reasons. With the path that I wish to take, it is inappropriate for me to join those powerful clans and organisations of the Saints' world. Being free may be even more beneficial to my cultivation, Jian Shen said seriously. He had received a legacy from the Immortals' world. As such, regardless of whether he was interested in joining a powerful organization or clan in the Saints' world or not, he could not afford to come in contact with them at all. Otherwise, he would be doomed. However, the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector nodded in much agreement after hearing Jian Shen's words. They responded, That's right. Although joining a powerful clan or organization is quite a good choice, you don't necessarily have to join one if you want to become an expert who stands supreme over all life. It is instead easier to forge the mind and willpower of a person by undergoing trials and tribulations among mortals. In the future, you'll still be able to become an expert who stands above all life, one who has reached the peak of the world. The Divine King stared deeply at Jian Shen and said, Jian Shen, since you have chosen that path, I hope you can follow through with it. Although I don't know whether you can reach the peak of the world with your talent, reaching the primordial realm will be nothing difficult at the very least. Jian Shen bowed at the Divine King. He knew that the Divine King was really thinking for him by saying that. Perhaps, he had gained the Divine King's favor with his talent, and the Divine King really hoped that Jian Shen could make it even further than he could himself. At this moment, the Divine King tossed a medallion to Jian Shen. He said, "Jian Shen, with this token, you can enter the royal collection as you wish. There are all the battle skills I have collected across the years in there. You can view them as you wish. According to the rules that I set down in the past, only Overgods who have contributed greatly to the Divine Kingdom can enter the royal collection to pick cultivation's methods or battle skills that they want, and there's a limit on the number. For you, I won't set down any restriction. I only hope that you can make it even further on the road of cultivation in the future." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Jian Shen clasped his fist and accepted the medallion. The Divine King smiled. However, he seemed to think of something soon afterwards. He stared at the hazy white sky and sighed gently. Godking Duanmu was once a shocking prodigy. His usage of the sword was masterful. He was a rare talent who was even comparable to the prodigies painstakingly raised by large sects and clans. There were very few people who were his opponent at the same level of cultivation apart from those who made it onto the God King's throne. The Divine King's voice was filled with emotion as he seemed to be recalling the past. Jian Shen had no idea why the Divine King had suddenly mentioned God King Duanmu. However, he did not say anything either. He just sat there quietly and listened. Many years ago, when God King Duanmu was still alive, I was fortunate enough to spar with him. He and I were both mid-God Kings, but I was only able to last 50 moves against him. Duanmu's battle prowess was really terrifying. With Duanmu's talent, if he fully matured, he would have definitely become an absolute power who could dominate an entire region. However, before he could reach the primordial realm, he was slain by the vice leader of the Empyrean demon cult, Jian. What a pity, what a pity. All he needed was one last step, and God King Duanmu would have become a primordial realm expert. With his strength that was enough to make it onto the God King's throne, he would have been able to face off against all three vice leaders of the Empyrean demon cult all by himself even if he was only an early infinite prime. It's just a pity that he failed to make it past the final step, and a great man just died like that. Sigh, the Divine King's voice was filled with regret. He felt regret for God King Duanmu's death. Jian Shen said nothing. In a world where the strong preyed on the weak, this was commonplace. Ling Hogong once followed me to wage wars everywhere. He fought to create the territory of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. On the surface, he and I are only related as vassal and king, but I have always treated him as a brother. Now that he has obtained God King Duanmu's legacy, his future accomplishments will definitely be extraordinary. However, he needs time to grow. The Divine King looked at Jian Shen and said, "Jian Shen, I have one thing that I must request from you. If the Ling family encounters trouble, please help them out." The Divine King spoke extremely sincerely. Instead, Jian Shen became very confused. Was the Divine King really that compassionate? As the Divine King, it was reasonable for him to look after Ling Hogong. However, he actually cared for Ling Hogong's clan so much as well. Was it because Ling Hogong had obtained God King Duanmu's legacy, so the Divine King was certain that he would soar up one day, which was why he cared so much about him? "You speak too seriously, Your Majesty. All Your Majesty needs is a single imperial edict, and who will still be bold enough to touch the Ling family?" Jian Shen said. "The Empyrean demon cult," the Divine King responded hoarsely. Jian Shen's face changed. He stared at the Divine King in surprise. After a moment of silence, he said, "If even you, Your Majesty, cannot stop them, what can I, a mere overgod, do?" The Divine King sighed gently. His face was filled with helplessness as he said, "Due to some reasons, I can't take part in the matter, so I must rely on you to stop the Empyrean demon cult." Jian Shen was surprised by that. Even the Grand Imperial Protector looked at the Divine King in confusion after he heard that. Chapter 1858, the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair, you really must be joking, Your Majesty. The Empyrean demon cult is so powerful that even those who stand at the peak of an entire plane fear them slightly. If the Empyrean demon cult really does come to cause trouble, what can I do with just my own strength, let alone stop them? Jian Chen smiled bitterly. The Divine King shook his head gently. The Empyrean demon cult really is powerful, far beyond what we, the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, can handle. However, you don't need to worry, Jian Chen. When the Ninth Army of the Empyrean demon cult attacked the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, they already raised the attention of those ancient empires in the southern region. Even the supreme ruler of the southern region, the Eternal Blood Sun Empire, is paying attention to the situation of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons at all times. If the Empyrean demon cult continues to advance so mindlessly, those large organizations and sects in the southern region will grow impatient. They will definitely stand forward to stop them. Is Your Majesty trying to say that the empires will assist the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons in fending off the Empyrean demon cult? Jian Chen asked. He cared about the matter dearly. He did not care about the survival of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons. Instead, he cared about whether there would be anyone who would do something about the Empyrean demon cult's unbridled behavior. This was important to him, as it would directly affect what he would choose to do when he came in contact with the cult in the future. The Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons is bordering on destruction. Although they have three god kings, even if they work together, they aren't the opponents of the Ninth Army. If nothing out of the ordinary happens, the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons will be wiped off the map of the Cloud Plain before long. However, the Empyrean demon cult attacking the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons is the limit of what the empires in the region can accept. If the Empyrean demon cult is bold enough to attack the Divine Kingdom of Nine Stars or even our Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, the empires will definitely stand forward to stop them. They would never just watch the Empyrean demon cult swell in power while doing nothing. As a result, there's no reason to fear the cult right now, the Divine King said calmly. He spoke without any particular emotion, making him seem calm and composed. Afterwards, he stared at Jian Chen deeply and continued, as a result, when you come across people from the cult, you won't have to worry about revenge for the time being, even if you directly kill them. If they really do advance recklessly, they would be in deep trouble. They definitely won't be bold enough to declare war on multiple ancient empires at the same time. Moreover, our southern region has an eternal empire as well. Jian Chen sat on the stone seat silently. He thought about why the Divine King would tell him this. It was as if he was certain that the people from the cult would come, and he hoped that Jian Chen could stop or even directly kill them. As a great god king, it's not very likely for the Divine King to say these useless things without good reason. Will the people from the cult really come to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian? And will they come for Ling Hogong? Jian Chen wondered. He was rather uncertain. However, Jian Chen had become fast friends with Ling Hogong long ago. Even though they did not spend much time together in God King Duanmu's dwelling, the two of them had formed quite a deep friendship. As long as the matter involved Ling Hogong and the Ling family, Jian Chen would never just stand by. If the people from the Empyrean demon cult really did come to make things difficult for the Ling family, Jian Chen would go forth and assist them even without the Divine King's reminder. Of course, that was only if they were not God Kings. Afterwards, Jian Chen finally got the opportunity to state why he had come. He asked the Divine King about other heavenly resources that could heal the soul like the soul-drawing lotus. He wanted to collect some so that he could wake up Kaya. The Divine King only spoke after pausing for a while. I do know many pills and heavenly resources that can heal the soul, but there are extremely few that are on the same level or even surpass the soul-drawing lotus. You'll probably only be able to find them in the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. The Een Mountains of Seven's Despair? Your Majesty, may I ask what kind of place it is? Can I really find heavenly resources that are on par with the soul-drawing lotus there? The Een Mountains of Seven's Despair is located on the boundary between the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang and the Divine Kingdom of Dadian. It's a mountain range that is always covered by seven-colored, poisonous miasma. Due to the potency of the miasma and how it can corrode the soul, even god kings are unwilling to venture in there. Overgods are only able to move about on the outskirts. Due to the natural obstacle of the miasma, people rarely set foot in the mountains at all. Naturally, a few extraordinary heavenly resources would appear there after a very long time. Although many of these heavenly resources are extremely poisonous, there is a small portion that is useful for cultivation. You might just be able to find heavenly resources that can heal the soul there. At this moment, the Divine King waved his hand. A few plants immediately flew over by themselves from the depths of the royal gardens, landing in his hand. There just happened to be an origin-gathering flower among them. I can tell that you're in urgent need of heavenly resources that can heal the soul. Here are 3 jade green azure sky flowers. They can also heal the soul, except they're not as great as the soul-drawing lotus. I'll gift all of these to you along with a few other exotic flowers and herbs. The Divine King extended his hand with the plants towards Jian Shen. Jian Shen hesitated slightly before accepting it firmly. He knew that he could not decline these things. Accepting them would be equivalent to owing the Divine King a favor, which would also show what circumstances he was in. There would only be benefits to the Tian Yuan clan from that. Feel free to check out the royal collection. You might be able to find something useful there. Moreover, I'll allow you to take 3 copies of the battle skills and cultivation methods from there with you as long as they're below the 7th grade of the truth tier so that you clansmen can use them, the Divine King said to Jian Shen in the end. Only the Grand Imperial Protector who knew the Divine King exceedingly well understood that the Divine King was taking extremely great care of Jian Shen. He had given him a bit of everything. If he were some other overgod, he would have to make a great contribution to the kingdom in exchange for only a single thing that Jian Shen had received. It could be said that Jian Shen had obtained many benefits despite doing nothing at all. After bidding farewell to the Divine King, Jian Shen immediately thought of the ancestor of the Mo family who had taken his god-tier armor, and the Yin Mountains of Seven's despair that laid on the border of the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang and the Divine Kingdom of Dadian. Right now, he was tempted to go to the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang immediately to take back his god-tier armor from the ancestor of the Mo family. After that, he could go to the Yin Mountains of Seven's despair for heavenly resources. However, after some close thought, Jian Shen decided to visit the royal collection first. He had obtained the Divine King's permission to view all the books in there, regardless of grade or tier. Moreover, he could take 3 copies of cultivation methods and battle skills that were below the 7th grade of the truth tier back to his clan so that his clansmen could use them. Although the books in the royal collection might not necessarily be beneficial to him, the 3 copies of battle skills or cultivation methods possessed quite a great attraction to Jian Shen. He had even felt excited over it as if he could see the day when the Tian Yuan clan had risen up. 6th grade cultivation methods of the truth tier would directly allow people to cultivate to Overgod, while battle skills of the same grade could be used by Overgods as well. Although he had left behind a few Overgod cultivation methods and battle skills back at the clan, there would never be enough of them. This was because not all people were suitable for a certain cultivation method. The more cultivation methods he could prepare, the more choice his clansmen would have, and that would increase their chances of becoming powerful. Chapter 1859, The Ling Family in Danger. 1. The royal collection was located towards the back of the royal palace. It was a glistening tower completely built out of gold. The tower had a total of 9 floors, and a shockingly powerful barrier surrounded it. There were not many guards who were purposefully stationed around the royal collection. Squadrons of soldiers from the Royal Divine Army would patrol around in the distance on their 3-flamed divine horses. This was because a god king had personally cast down the barrier around the royal collection. It was so powerful that even weaker god kings, let alone overgods, would need to attack it several times before it would give way. It was exactly because of this that stationing guards around a place like the royal collection would be basically useless. Jian Shen used the medallion that the Divine King had given to him to open up the barrier. He entered the royal collection without any obstructions. Many battle skills and cultivation methods were placed within the royal collection. All the battle skills and cultivation methods were divided among the 9 floors. The cultivation methods and battle skills on the 1st floor were naturally all of the 1st grade. The methods in which the cultivation methods and battle skills were stored varied greatly. Not only were there some recorded in scrolls and books, but there were many carved into stone tablets as well. Jian Shen even saw a huge turtle shell covered with the traces left behind by time. There were complicated and profound images on there, possessing traces of the laws of the world. It was also a cultivation method, but it had not been stored in words. Instead, it was stored as images. It could only be understood and not read. A powerful barrier blocked the entrance to each floor of the tower. Jian Shen used the medallion he had obtained from the Divine King to make his way through them, directly arriving on the 6th floor. The higher he climbed, the fewer cultivation methods and battle skills he saw. There were thousands on the 1st floor, while the 6th floor only possessed around 100 battle skills, cultivation methods, and notes on comprehension left behind by people of the past. Jian Shen was not in a hurry to go to the 7th floor. He stopped on the 6th floor and carefully read through all the cultivation methods, battle skills, and notes on cultivation there. Even though he possessed a better cultivation method and had no use for the cultivation methods present, even though the battle skills were useless to him, he still hoped that reading them and absorbing their essence would assist his future cultivation to a certain degree. This was basically absorbing whatever benefits they had to offer and making up for any personal flaws. Although Jian Shen did not find any particular item that was useful to him, his current actions had basically benefited him already. A day later, Jian Shen managed to read through all the cultivation methods, battle skills, and notes on comprehension left on the 6th floor. After thinking through it seriously, he chose 3 cultivation methods to copy and take back to the Tian Yuan clan. After doing all that, Jian Shen went up to the 7th floor without any reluctance at all. All the cultivation methods, battle skills, and so on that floor had reached the 7th grade of truth tier. Just like the 6th floor, everything here was beneficial to Overgods, except the quantity was slightly less again. There were only around 80 items. This time, Jian Shen remained on the 7th floor for 2 days before making his way to the 8th floor. There were even fewer items on the 8th floor. There were only 5 cultivation methods, 4 battle skills, and 4 notebooks on cultivation left behind by people of the past. There was not a lot, but Jian Shen's eyes shone. Even his breathing became rather ragged. This was because all the cultivation methods on the 8th floor had reached the level of God Kings. 8th grade cultivation methods could allow people to cultivate to God King. Under normal circumstances, only God Kings could grasp and use 8th grade battle skills. It was almost impossible for Overgods to grasp them. To no surprise, among the 4 battle skills, Jian Shen discovered the divine finger of void-crushing meteor that Yang Kai had used during their fight. The divine finger of void-crushing meteor was the most inferior battle skill out of the 4, but it was also the easiest one among them for Overgods to grasp. Every single battle skill and cultivation method from the 8th floor would be enough to raise a storm of blood if it was released to the outside world. Countless people would throw themselves into the fight without any concern for their lives. Even Overgods would die. He really is a God King after all. He actually has several 8th grade cultivation methods and battle skills. These items are basically priceless to all divine kingdoms. Jian Shen sighed in amazement from the bottom of his heart. It really did surprise him. Afterwards, Jian Shen began to focus his attention on studying the battle skills and cultivation methods. Jian Shen felt like he had benefited greatly from the notes on cultivation in particular. The notes on cultivation were essentially a crystallization of their entire life of cultivation. It was condensed after countless years of accumulation. It contained everything they understood. Although there were no notes from God Kings who had comprehended the laws of the sword, viewing the comprehensions of various God Kings was equivalent to experiencing everything they had gone through in their life. Jian Shen felt like he had gained a completely new outlook after wandering through the lives of various different people, as if he had opened a completely new door within him. This time, Jian Shen remained on the 8th floor for a total of 7 days. When he put down the final scroll after that time, there was an additional sliver of comprehension in his eyes. Although Jian Shen did not try to comprehend the battle skills in the days he spent within the royal collection, the benefits he had gained were far greater than grasping an 8th grade battle skill. After reading so many cultivation methods and witnessing so many truth-tier battle skills, his understanding that anything was possible only increased. I can probably create my own 6th grade cultivation methods and battle skills now. I just need to spend quite a lot of effort. Jian Chen's eyes shone abnormally brightly. His eyes were like 2 gems in the night. This was what he had gained from the royal collection. Although he had come across many cultivation methods in the past, it was still a pitiful amount, not to mention that their quality was limited. Naturally, they would not bring him much help at all. However, it was different now. Jian Shen had read through the tremendous amount of cultivation methods and battle skills within the royal collection and absorbed their essence. He used other people's comprehensions to confirm or reject his own comprehensions, allowing him to understand very much. Unknowingly, his comprehension of the laws of the world had increased slightly again. Of course, the reason why this could happen was all because of Jian Chen's superior affinity for comprehension. If he possessed a poor affinity, he would not have been able to benefit at all no matter how great the circumstances were. I've managed to take another tiny step away from the partial achievement of Sword Spirit. I really do look forward to the day when I reach late Sword Spirit. Not only will I be able to refine a 3rd strand of profound sword chi, but my level of comprehension will also directly surpass the boundaries of Overgod and reach Godking. Jian Chen was satisfied. He had benefited far more than he had expected from his trip to the royal collection. Afterwards, Jian Chen left the 8th floor. He used his medallion to bypass the barrier, entering the final floor of the royal collection, the 9th floor. At the same time, in the sword-seeking province, a presence that was terrifyingly powerful to all the occupants there suddenly appeared. It instantly engulfed the entire province. Black clouds suddenly rolled over from the horizon, and a demonic aura filled the skies. At that moment, the blazing sun in the sky lost all of its radiance. 3 figures appeared at the front of the clouds. They gave off a monstrous presence as they shot over from the distance like they were riding the clouds. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, they directly barged into the province in a brutal and overbearing manner. With the appearance of the 3 people, the sky above the province rapidly darkened. Demonic aura formed a huge black cloud that covered the skies, blocking out the light and reducing the world to darkness. Chapter 1860, The Ling Family in Danger, 2. All the people throughout the sword-seeking province began to panic from the sudden change. At this moment, everyone within the sword-seeking province raised their heads and stared at the 3 figures in the sky. Their eyes were filled with deep dread and shock. Overgods. They're overgods. Oh my god, the 3 people in the sky are all overgods. What powerful demonic aura. These people have come with ill intentions. The sword-seeking province is in trouble. Quick, leave the sword-seeking province. They're from the Empyrean demon cult. When the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult attacked the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, they would leave the ground scarlet red wherever they passed. Blood even formed rivers. No one can keep their lives before the Empyrean demon cult. Run. Instantly, the sword-seeking province fell into a panic. The Empyrean demon cult's invasion of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons had led to a hubbub of discussion. Even many people who had never heard of the Empyrean demon cult in the past were now completely familiar with the demonic cult. As a result, many people immediately recognized the 3 overgods who had come. This was because the black clouds formed from their demonic aura had already explained their statuses as part of the demonic cult. During this period of time, all the people began to charge out of the provincial city's gates frantically. They all wanted to leave. In the sky, the 3 people looked down on everyone. Their gazes were cold, and they seemed like they stood on the black clouds. The 3 people were the overgods that the commander of the 9th army, Yan Wuming, had sent over. One of them was a general within the 9th army. His name was Lu Shan, and he was a mid-overgod. The other 2 were his deputies. They were also overgods and only one minor cultivation realm weaker than Lu Shan. They were overgods. Lu Shan smiled coldly on the black clouds as he watched the cultivators below flee. Bloodthirstiness appeared in his eyes. He extended a hand, and a huge net woven from black threads suddenly expanded, falling onto the sword-seeking province below. The black net expanded at an unbelievable rate as it fell. In just a short instance, it had extended beyond the horizon. When it fell out of the sky, it actually managed to cover the entire sword-seeking province that was as large as a kingdom in a lower world. Arg! Chilling wails rang out. A few of the people who were just about to leave the province came in contact with the net. A black, demonic flame immediately sprang up on their bodies. It could not be put out. The demonic flames were extremely powerful. People below godhood did not even manage to last for 5 seconds under the flames. Under the gazes of many, they were completely reduced to ashes. Even deities were unable to last for very long under the demonic flames. They were also reduced to ash. There was even a god who came in contact with the black net. He had also been set on fire. He wailed out painfully and miserably under the flames. It was a horrific sight. Countless people stopped. They stared at the net with pale faces. Currently, their faces had become extremely ugly. Some of them were even filled with despair. Empyrean demon cult, this is the territory of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Are you not afraid that you'll enrage the divine king with your actions and make him come to kill you off? At this moment, a furious yell rang out from the Ling family. The Ling family had already activated their protective formation. It flickered with a metallic glint as countless swords revolved around its surroundings. This was an Overgod level formation. Duke Ling had personally cast it down, and the formation could both attack and defend. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, and all the elders within the Ling family currently hovered in the air. They stood within the area that the formation protected as they stared at the 3 overgods in the sky furiously. Ha 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 ha, Lu Shan began to chuckle loudly when he heard Ling Majian's threat. He said, why would the mere divine king Pingtian possesses the audacity to stand up to the Empyrean demon cult? Lu Shan looked at Ling Majian who had threatened him. He sneered, you should be the patriarch of the Ling family, right? Patriarch Ling, you're not stupid. Do you think the divine king Pingtian will say anything if our Empyrean demon cult just wipes out your measly sword-seeking province? Lu Shan spoke arrogantly. He was completely fearless, and he did not treat the divine king Pingtian with any importance at all. Ling Majian's face became extremely ugly. He possessed a rough understanding of the Empyrean demon cult's strength. Of their 9 armies, any single one of them could wipe out the divine kingdom of Pingtian easily. If the divine kingdom of Pingtian wanted to stand up to them, there would indeed only be death. Moreover, aside from the 9 armies, the Empyrean demon cult possessed a few God-King protectors and 3 vice leaders that were even more terrifying. They were far more than what the divine kingdom of Pingtian could handle. I am on a mission, so I have no interest in wasting time with you ants. Patriarch Ling, I don't care what you do, but get Ling Hogong to show his ass immediately. Otherwise, not only will your Ling family be massacred, but even all the people in the provincial city will suffer the same fate as you, Lu Shan said coldly. His voice rang through the entire provincial city. Don't kill me, I'm innocent. I have no relationship with the Ling family at all, Patriarch Ling, save us. Patriarch Ling, all the lives of the people in the city lies in your hands. You can't just abandon us, Patriarch Ling, find Senior Ling this instance. Once he returns, we won't have to die. The sword-seeking province had completely descended into a mess. The people in the city had no hopes to flee, so they all arrived around the Ling family to beg them desperately. Their eyes were filled with the hope of survival. All the people in the Ling family fell silent. Patriarch, what should we do? An elder of the Ling family asked Ling Majian with an ugly complexion. The other elders said nothing, but they all looked at Ling Majian. Patriarch, it's best if you try to find a way to get the Ancestor back. We can't just let so many people in the city die for nothing. No, we can't contact the Ancestor, let alone let the Ancestor know what's happening here. Isn't there still the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? He even managed to defeat Yan Kai, so he'll definitely be able to save us. Patriarch, Did the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan leave a method of communication with you when he left? It's best if you contact him immediately. You can't contact the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. After all, they're from the Empyrean demon cult. We can't drag the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan into this mess as well. A few elders in the Ling family also lost their composure in the face of this life-or-death situation. They argued loudly around Ling Majian. Some of them were afraid of death, so they were trying to find a way to survive. At the same time, there were some of them who did not fear death. Determination flooded their eyes. Ling Majian closed his eyes bitterly. Currently, he was faced with a tough choice. He was stuck in an intense internal struggle. The Ancestor has already vanished for many years. I don't know where the Ancestor is. If you want to attack people, attack the Ling family. Leave the innocent people in the city out of this, okay? Ling Majian said painfully. Chapter 1861, Benefiting Greatly. You want to use the lives of your Ling family to exchange for the millions of lives in the provincial city? Huh, you wish. Commander Lu Shan stood on the black clouds and laughed fiercely. His cold eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty craziness. He extended a finger, and several strands immediately broke away from the black net that enveloped the entire provincial city. They wounded around several dozen cultivators. Ling Majian, let me repeat myself again. If you want to save the millions of lives in the city, get Ling Hogong to show his ass immediately. I don't have that much time to waste with you. I'll kill a group of people for every day you waste. I'll keep that up until Ling Hogong appears, Lu Shan said coldly. He closed his hand, and the black threads immediately tightened. Like knives, they cut the people trapped in threads to pieces. The cultivators all cried out miserably. Their bodies were reduced to pieces as blood dyed the streets. Even their souls failed to escape, as the black threads had cut it into pieces, so it dispersed as a result. All the people of the Ling family watched this happen silently. All of their hearts weighed very heavily. The Ling family was a mighty clan with an overgod. With the entire divine kingdom in perspective, they were an existence that stood at the top, yet before the three overgods of the Empyrean demon cult, they were so insignificant. They could not even fight back. They were reduced to sitting ducks. The people of the Ling family were greatly affected by what happened that day. However, they could not do anything about it. The Empyrean demon cult was just too powerful. Doesn't your heart hurt? Fair enough, the people I'm killing have nothing to do with your Ling family. No matter how many of them I kill, it won't hurt your heart at all. Since that's the case, Lu Shan looked at the people hiding in the formation. He smiled coldly, and a black sword appeared in his hand. He directly swung it at the formation. The strike was filled with a demonic aura. It caused the thick demonic clouds in the sky to churn. They seemed to be a part of the sword, so when Lu Shan swung down, it pulsed violently. A black sword condensed from the clouds emerged from the mass, moving with his sword. It landed on the protective barrier of the Ling family with devastating power. Rumble. This was a powerful strike from a mid-overgod. It was so powerful that it had surpassed the imaginations of all the people in the province. The protective formation of the Ling family suddenly shattered with a deafening boom. Powerful energy splayed out, reducing all the building of the Ling family to ruins. Countless people vomited blood as their blood drained from their faces. A few weaker of the servants directly lost their lives under the powerful pulse of energy. I'll kill the people of the Ling family then. I'll kill one every day until Ling Hogong appears, said Lu Shan. He appeared before a god of the clan as if he had teleported and smashed his head to pieces with a palm strike, destroying his soul. An elder of the Ling family died just like that. The matter of the three overgods pinning down the sword-seeking province spread very quickly like a storm. Very soon, the news made its way across the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian and even beyond that. It caused a huge uproar. Back to the 9th floor of the royal collection in the royal palace of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Jian currently sat on the floor. He held an ancient scroll, he was completely absorbed in it. He devoted all his attention to it. This was the notes on cultivation and the comprehensions of the laws of the sword left behind by a god king who had comprehended the same laws as Jian Shen. Jian Shen was fatally attracted to the ancient scroll. He could not resist his urges at all. Jian Shen closed his eyes after reading the contents of the scroll. He comprehended the contents of the scroll seriously. A faint layer of silver light appeared around him. It seemed like Jian Shen was flashing. In particular, when he closed his eyes, he was surrounded by the light. He had a calm expression on his face. It made him seem divine. Gradually, tadpole-sized sword qi appeared around Jian Shen. Every single strand was filled with intelligence. They were pure white and flawless, revolving around Jian Shen slowly. Clearly, the scroll left behind by the God King was quite useful to Jian Shen, allowing him to benefit greatly. Several hours later, Jian Shen opened his eyes slowly. A sliver of understanding appeared in his eyes. A late God King probably wrote this ancient scroll, Jian Shen said to himself softly. He carefully returned the ancient scroll to where he had taken it from before continuing his way through the other books and scrolls. Jian Shen also remained on the 9th floor for 7 days. During that time, he read all the books and scrolls there. He was about to leave. Suddenly, Jian Shen's eyes narrowed. He discovered an inconspicuous metal box in a corner of the 9th floor. If it were not for the fact he had just happened to glance over, he might have missed it. Jian Shen hesitated slightly. In the end, he still walked over and opened it. He discovered a thick, ancient book inside as well as a thumb-sized pearl. The Smithy Grand Collection. 4 powerful words were written on the cover of the book. Jian Shen's eyes lit up when he saw the 4 words. He had to personally forge the twin swords in the future, so he needed to dabble in forging weapons. Due to the fact that the swords he forged on the Tianyuan continent were not of any particularly high grade and the fact that the sword spirits were there to guide him, he was not required to have much expertise. However, in the future, the grades of the swords he needed to forge would constantly rise. He would need to have a certain degree of mastery over smithing to forge the twin swords into god artifacts. Although he could find other people to forge the weapons for him, how would he be able to do that with something as important as the twin swords? This pearl should be a memory pearl. Xian Dou mentioned this type of thing. Memory pearls are extremely tough and very hard to destroy. Normally, they're used to record extremely important things, which are far greater than the things you can find in books or scrolls. According to Xian Dou, memory pearls are extremely rare. Under ordinary circumstances, only experts who rule over a huge area can possess them. It shouldn't exist within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Jian Shen looked at the pearl again. He felt extremely curious. Fortunately, he had learned enough about memory pearls from Xian Dou. He knew the way to use it. Jian Shen let out the senses of his soul, directing it towards the memory pearl slowly. When the senses approached the memory pearl, a suction force immediately appeared out of nowhere, directly sucking his senses away. Teleportation formations. A tremendous amount of information was presented before Jian Shen when his senses entered the memory pearl. To Jian Shen's joy, the information recorded within the memory pearl detailed the method to create teleportation formations. There were inferior and superior teleportations formations. Inferior formations could only carry people a short distance. On the other hand, superior teleportation formations could teleport people to extremely distant places. With the tremendous cloud plain as an example, directly taking people from the southern region to the northern region would be no problem. Let alone teleporting between regions, but even teleportation between planes and worlds was possible, given that the person who wanted to cast down the formation possessed a great mastery of the laws of formations. Teleportation formations. Ha 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 ha, I never thought there would actually be something that detailed teleportation formations here. I actually found it here. Fate is in my favor. Jian Shen could not help but laugh aloud as he held the memory pearl. He was extremely excited. Ever since he had come to the Saint's world, Jian Shen had never felt so emotional and excited. This was because the information on teleportation formations tied into just too many things for him. It was even more important than his life, as it was related to his hopes of being able to return home. Chapter 1862. Saving the Ling family. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and forcefully suppressed his excitement, slowly calming himself down. However, his gaze towards the memory pearl still burned with unconcealable desire. When he had entered the royal collection, his main intention was to take away 3 cultivation methods or battle skills with him, which the Divine King had given him permission to do. This was because 3 cultivation methods or battle skills that were at the level of Overgods was far too significant to the Tianyuan clan because they were still developing. After that, he was going to try to benefit through reading and viewing the tremendous number of cultivation methods and battle skills. However, now that he had accidentally found a memory pearl that recorded the method to create teleportation formations on the 9th floor, it was a joyous surprise. This was because he could tell with a single glance that the method to create formations within the memory pearl was of an extremely high grade. Clearly, something as great as this could not be purchased. Although there were also various formations available on the market, and they could even be found in a few stores, they were pretty much all basic items. They would not be too useful for casting down teleportation formations that could cross worlds. Jian Shen placed the Smithy Grand Collection aside without any hesitation. He placed all his focus on the memory pearl. Jian Shen had spent many years back on the Tianyuan continent to comprehend teleportation formations. However, he was nowhere close to casting down formations that could cross worlds. As a matter of fact, he probably could not even cast down a regular teleportation formation. This was because the teleportation formations he cast down on the Tianyuan continent initially were more like markers. Their only purpose was to act as a beacon of light in the dark so that he could find his way back. However, he had still managed to accumulate much experience through the years of comprehension. It had set a solid foundation for him. It was just like building a tower. Once the foundation was set well, only building the tower above was needed. Jian Shen was completely entranced by the memory pearl. It made him completely forget about himself. At that moment, he had become completely submerged in the information about teleportation formations. Jian Shen would only be considered to have formally taken a step towards creating teleportation formations after viewing the memory pearl. A sliver of understanding gradually appeared in Jian Shen's eyes. The memory pearl seemed to have opened a gate in his head, finally allowing him to truly come in contact with another world of comprehension. Teleportation formations were complicated and profound. Although there were many people in the Saints' world who tried to comprehend them, most of them would remain as beginners. Only a small number of impressive people would accomplish something. However, Jian Shen already possessed a great affinity for comprehension, not to mention the foundation he had built for himself in the lower world. As a result, Jian Shen only needed a very short time to become well acquainted with its contents, while other people would need several dozen or even hundreds of years. By the time Jian Shen made his way off the 9th floor, half a month had already passed. Jian Shen memorized all the contents of the memory pearl in that half a month. He only needed to actually attempt to create something himself. He had even memorized all the contents within the Smithy Grand Collection. Of course, memorization was only memorization. There were still many problems to resolve if he wanted to actually cast down a teleportation formation. Most importantly, he lacked the required comprehension of the laws of formations. The laws of formations and the laws of smithing were also parts of the 3,000 laws. They were just more auxiliary than offensive. Jian Shen left the royal palace and made his way through the bustling streets by himself. He directly made his way to the courtyard that he temporarily stayed at within the royal capital. Jian Shen moved extremely quickly. Before long, he returned to the quiet place. Patriarch Jian Shen, you've finally come back. Mo Yan immediately threw down her fishing pole from beside the pool when she saw Jian Shen. She ran over excitedly as joy filled her face. Patriarch Jian Shen, you're finally back. You just left Sister Shi Yu and me here. We did not even dare to set a foot out of this place because we were afraid that the people of the Yang family would come to find trouble with us again. Mo Yan's excitement vanished instantly when she arrived beside Jian Shen. She made a bitter face and spoke pitifully. Her face changed faster than someone could change the pages of a book. She was excited just before, yet she had become sad in a split second. Don't worry. In the future, Yang Kai won't dare to act recklessly in the royal capital. Jian Shen smiled as he comforted Mo Yen. Shiyu also emerged from her room. She said sternly, Patriarch, during the time you spent at the royal capital, a big matter has happened in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The Empyrean demon cult has sent 3 overgods to deal with the Ling family. They've pinned down the entire sword-seeking province. What did you say? Jian Chen's face changed. He stared at Shiyu closely and said, when did this happen? What's the situation with the Ling family now? It has already been half a month. During that time, the 3 overgods killed quite a few people from the sword-seeking province. Even the Ling family has lost a few experts. Shiyu was rather stern as she continued, during this period of time, they've kept the Ling family trapped, killing one of their member every day. Now, 4 gods have already passed away as well as over 10 deities. If Ling Hogong still doesn't show himself, they'll keep up the killing until the entire Ling family or even entire the sword-seeking province is dead. Jian Chen's face immediately sunk when he heard how the Ling family had actually lost so many godhood experts. A vicious light flickered through his eyes. It has already been half a month. Hasn't the Divine King His Majesty and the Grand Imperial Protector done anything? There are so many overgods in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Why hasn't any one of them gone to save them? Jian Chen growled. Shiyu shook her head. Deep fear filled her eyes, and she said, they're from the Empyrean demon cult. Who would be bold enough to offend them? Whether it's the Divine King, the Grand Imperial Protector, or the other overgods in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, none of them have responded to the matter at all. Looks like they don't plan on helping the Ling family. But that's expected because once they interfere, it would be equivalent to standing up to the Empyrean demon cult. With the Empyrean demon cult's strength, they only need to send out a few more people and the people interfering would be done for. Even the divine kingdom's entire strength is not enough to hold back any one of the armies of the Empyrean demon cult. Didn't the divine king say that there's no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult? Since there's no need to fear them, why doesn't he help the Ling family? Even if he can't do anything because of some reasons, the Grand Imperial Protector can, right? Jian Chen murmured to himself softly. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Or should I say, the true intentions of the Divine King is for me to oppose the Empyrean demon cult so that he can draw out the person who supports me against the Empyrean demon cult. Jian Chen wondered inside. He could not help but think of Fairy Hao Yu and Tong Tian. He had not seen either of them in many years. Even Jian Chen was uncertain whether he and Fairy Hao Yu were only partners for a deal, or if they had gradually formed a friendship. However, there was no doubt about Fairy Hao Yu's power. She was basically confirmed to be a primordial realm expert. As for Tong Tian, he was only on friendly terms with him at most. They were not even close friends. As a matter of fact, Jian Chen did not even know who he was before he had appeared in God King Duanmu's dwelling. Other people don't know about my relationship with Tong Tian. They only saw Tong Tian save me while being protected by a God King. Maybe they thought of something because of this and mistook it as me being close to Tong Tian or something. Or maybe they think I have a great background or something. If that's the case, the Divine King really did mean it when he said that there was no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult. Or is he doing what I think he is trying to do, getting me to stand against the Empyrean demon cult on purpose so that he can draw out Fairy Hao Yu and Tong Tian through me and use them to stand up to the Empyrean demon cult? For the time being, Jian Shen was rather uncertain about the Divine King's intentions. However, determination flooded Jian Chen's eyes soon after. Regardless of what the Divine King is trying to do, I have to stop the Empyrean demon cult from devastating the Ling family. Chapter 1863, Slaying 3 Overgods with the Sword. 1. Patriarch, what are you planning to do? Are you going to help the Ling family? That'll be provoking the Empyrean demon cult and becoming enemies with them, Shiyu was greatly surprised. Her eyes widened as she stared at Jian Shen in disbelief. To her, saving the Ling family would only end up dooming himself. Although the patriarch was very powerful, no weaker than Yang Kai, who was known as the greatest expert below Godking in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, there were a total of 3 overgods who had trapped the Ling family. They might not be the patriarch's opponent even when combined. However, even if the patriarch could kill them, doing so would be equivalent to becoming enemies with the Empyrean demon cult. Without a single doubt, that was just asking the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan to die. Jian Shen stared at Shiyu and said sternly, "I have my own plans for this matter. Shiyu, take Mo Yen with you and leave the royal capital immediately. Rush back to the Tian Yuan clan. I have a task for you." Jian Shen got a brush and some ink. He wrote down several dozen materials in a hurry before passing it to Shiyu. He said, "Once you get back to the clan, tell all the elders to find all the materials on the list as soon as possible. The more the better." Shiyu knew that Jian Shen had made up his mind. There was nothing she could do to change the mind of an overgod once they had decided on something. As a result, Shiyu could only sigh gently inside. She left the royal capital with Mo Yen and the list of several dozen materials. Jian Shen did not remain around for long after Shiyu and Mo Yen's departure. He found his orientation and shot off to the sword-seeking province. High in the air, Jian Shen felt like he still was not moving fast enough. He formed a seal and used the linear lightning release, shooting off at unbelievable speeds as a bolt of lightning. He could only maintain the linear lightning release for a very short amount of time, so his speed would only be increased for a short instance every time he used it. However, he was still able to traverse an extremely great distance every time he used it. Jian Shen used the linear lightning release several times so that he could reach the sword-seeking province as soon as possible. Back in the royal palace of the Divine Kingdom, the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector were currently playing chess extremely leisurely in the pavilion within the royal gardens. Jian Shen has already left the royal capital and is currently heading towards the sword-seeking province. Just as I had expected, he would go help out the Ling family. The Divine King was confident. The Grand Imperial Protector raised his head when he heard that. He looked at the Divine King and said, "Ping Tian, there's just one thing I don't really understand. Didn't you say that there was no reason to fear the Empyrean demon cult a few days ago? Since there's no reason to fear them, why didn't you let the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Shen, go handle the 3 overgods? Even if you're worrying that the 3 overgods have some trump card and that Shen is not their opponent, why didn't you send me instead? With my strength, I think I can handle a few overgods no matter what their trump cards are without experiencing any threat at all." The Grand Imperial Protector continued from there, or in other words, the Empyrean demon cult should be feared? You're using this opportunity to lure out the people behind Jian Shen so that you can use them against the Empyrean demon cult? The Divine King shook his head. "It's true. Right now, there's no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult. The people from the empires really have been paying attention to the movements of the Empyrean demon cult. I can already vaguely sense several powerful senses of the soul sweep by in the past few years. They're basically all from the primordial realm experts of the empires. The reason why I didn't get you to act is because both you and Shen represent the royal family of our divine kingdom of Pingtian. Once you do move against them, the Empyrean demon cult will believe we are acting against them. In order to protect their dignity, the Empyrean demon cult will probably invade our divine kingdom of Pingtian even when they know they'll come into conflict with the empires from how the Empyrean demon cult has been doing things. But Jian Shen is different. His Tian Yuan clan hasn't even existed for a century. Strictly speaking, he's not even a part of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. It's extremely likely that we can avoid a war with the Empyrean demon cult by using him against them. The Grand Imperial Protector's eyes also lit up with that. He added, "Moreover, there's the primordial realm expert who has recovered their body and the young mazer of a great clan who has a god king as a bodyguard behind Jian Shen. If Jian Shen really kills the 3 overgods, they'll have to consider it carefully if they want to move against him. They would have to see whether the lives of 3 overgods are worth running the likely risk of offending a primordial realm expert and a powerful clan. The Divine King said, "The reason why there is no reason to fear the Empyrean demon cult is because the empires will stand forward and stop them. As for the 3 overgods who have trapped the sword-seeking province, only Jian Shen can kill them if they must die. It's inappropriate for other overgods to take action." Ping Tian, when you suddenly mentioned the Empyrean demon cult to Jian Shen, did you know already that the Empyrean demon cult would come to find Ling Hogong? The Grand Imperial Protector asked. The Divine King smiled, neither confirming or denying the Grand Imperial Protector's thoughts. He pointed at the chessboard. "It's your turn." The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, and all their elders stood within the clan with sunken faces. Aside from them, almost all the clansmen of the Ling family had already become pale-faced. They were ashen and filled with despair. Lu Shan and his 2 early overgod deputies stood on the black clouds. They hung in the sky as they stared down coldly. Even though this was the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, the 3 of them were completely fearless. They did not believe that anyone would come and stand in their way. This was because the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult was currently in the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, which was quite close to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. A black thread suddenly extended from the huge black net that engulfed the entire province. It directly wrapped around an elder of the Ling family before wrenching him high up in the sky. The gods of the Ling family were completely helpless against it. There was nothing that they could do because it was Lu Shan taking action. In the past few days, Lu Shan had already used the same method to brutally kill several elders of the Ling family. "It's another day. I'll kill this god today. Ling Majian, if your ancestor returns, you'll still be able to save this person. After all, my original intentions weren't to kill off the Ling family," Lu Shan said coldly. Ling Majian shut his eyes painfully. He was filled with sorrow. He had waited for so many days, but the divine kingdom had not sent any reinforcements at all. He knew that the Ling family was doomed. However, Ling Majian did not blame anyone. As a matter of fact, he was expecting this. After all, they were the Empyrean demon cult. Before the Empyrean demon cult, even the entire divine kingdom would probably be unable to stop any of their armies. Chapter 1864, Slaying 3 Overgods with the Sword, 2, Ling Majian. "It looks like you've chosen to abandon the god again," Lu Shan stood on the black cloud and said coldly. Soon afterwards, he sighed gently and shook his head in regret. "As an elder of the Ling family, even if you haven't made any meritorious contributions to the clan, you've worked hard. But in the end, the Ling family mercilessly abandons you. They could clearly help you and save you, but they just choose not to. Looks like the gods of the Ling family are not worth a single dime to the patriarch. What a pity indeed." As he said that, Lu Shan gradually tightened his hand. The black thread around the god immediately began to tighten gradually along with Lu Shan's movement. Like a knife, the threads gradually sliced into the god's flesh. Blood immediately poured out, dyeing him red. In the blink of an eye, he had become covered in blood. It was a horrific sight. Clearly, Lu Shan could cut the god to pieces with his control over the black threads. However, he had never planned to deal with the god instantly. He purposefully created this heart-wrenching scene for the Ling family to see, attacking them psychologically. "Ling Majian, I'll give you another half a minute. If you contact Ling Hogong, or if Ling Hogong appears, I'll spare this person. Otherwise, he'll definitely be reduced to an incomplete corpse," Lu Shan said coldly. However, he felt rather worried and annoyed inside. So many days had passed already, but he still had not completed the mission he received from Commander Yen Wuming. If he wasted too much time, he was afraid he would displease the commander. "If you want to kill me, then kill me. I'm not afraid of dying. Patriarch, never contact the Ancestor. The Ancestor can't come back. He can't appear here. As long as the Ancestor is alive, he can rebuild the clan even if the clan ceases to exist," the god who had been wrapped up in the black thread called out furiously. He felt no fear for death at all. "Do you want to die?" Lu Shan's face sank. The killing intent in his gaze towards the god increased. Arg! The god produced a chilling wail. The black threads had already cut deep into his flesh, reaching his bone. He could even feel all his bones break. Even his skull had shattered. All the people from the Ling family shut their eyes. They were unwilling to witness this scene. Sorrow filled all their faces, and even some of the elders began to shed tears of sorrow. Stop! Suddenly, a voice rang out from the distance. In the beginning, it was very soft, just like a mosquito. However, it grew louder at an unbelievable speed. Towards the end, it was thunderous, creating an echo through the surroundings. The terrifying sound wave even seemed to form visible ripples, expanding and actually causing the entire city to shake slightly. Before the countless people in the city could react, a resplendent streak of light suddenly appeared in the distance. It shone with great radiance, illuminating the world like the scorching sun. The light was simply too bright. The black clouds formed from the demonic aura that had swallowed up the entire sword-seeking province even paled before it. The streak of light moved extremely quickly, jetting over from the distance. In just a flash, it crossed an extremely great distance and arrived above the sword-seeking province. It did not slow down at all, directly ramming into the black net that had covered the entire province. Rumble. With a deafening sound, the black net that Lu Shan had cast down directly tore open, forming a huge hole that was 300 meters across from the streak of light. The streak of light was unstoppable, directly falling towards the provincial city. The black net was a medium-quality saint artifact. Lu Shan had refined it, so it was bound to his life. As a result, when the black net was damaged, Lu Shan suffered as well. His face paled in a single instance, and he produced an extremely deep grunt. His body also quivered. Lu Shan was injured while the god from the Ling family bound by the black threads had avoided a calamity. He directly fell out of the sky and was caught by another god. The light vanished in the provincial city and revealed a young man in white robes. He only seemed to be in his 20s. The young man was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Shen. Jian Shen had dispersed the light around him, so he seemed like an ordinary person. He stood in the air and stared at the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult in the distance. His eyes were cold. All the gods of the Ling family were stunned when they saw Jian Shen in the sky. Their emotions became mixed. There was surprise and joy as well as sighs. The sighing elders were naturally the people who did not wish for Jian Shen to come, as the Tian Yuan clan would offend the Empyrean demon cult if he did. An elder could not help but cry out. However, right after he let out just a single word, Ling Majian firmly shut his mouth. We're a part of the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult. We directly answer to Commander Yan Wuming. Who are you, sir? Do you plan on becoming enemies with our Empyrean demon cult by interfering? One of Lu Shan's deputies said coldly as he glared at Jian Shen. You've gone too far, Empyrean demon cult. You're killing a bunch of people who are only gods at most despite being overgods. Since you like killing the weak so much, I'll show you how it feels today, Jian Shen said coldly. His face was completely sunken, and he was filled with killing intent. The senses of his soul had already surrounded the entire sword-seeking province. He discovered that aside from the Ling family, over 1,000 people had died to Lu Shan's hands as well. Every single death was extremely horrific, with the deceased having been carved to countless pieces. With a thought, the high-quality saint artifact, the startling rainbow sword, appeared in Jian Shen's hands. Although he could kill the 3 overgods without even using the sword given his current strength, he wanted to finish the battle fast. The face of the early overgod who had spoken before sank. Just when he wanted to say something else, Jian Shen moved like lightning. Jian Shen suddenly appeared before the early overgod, and the startling lightning sword stabbed towards his forehead. As Jian Shen struck out, his entire presence underwent a drastic change. His presence surged as his entire body seemed to fuse with the sword. He controlled the laws of the sword just like a god of the sword. The early overgod's face changed drastically. He could feel Jian Chen strike lock onto his presence. Every inch of space around him seemed to be filled with invisible sword chi, which actually made him feel like he could not dodge. In this moment of life and death, the early Overgod made a rapid response. He used his demonic arts, and the demonic aura around him surged. He held a giant, two-handed sword and suddenly cleaved it as it was wrapped up in black flames. However, how was he Jian Chen's opponent? When the two weapons collided, he experienced a terrifying power that he could not resist, and it directly knocked his huge sword out of his hands. The deputy vomited blood. His face was pale, and he felt extremely shocked inside. He had become heavily injured from that single attack. Late Overgod, the deputy cried out. He also knew that this person was far beyond a regular late Overgod. However, he was only able to cry out that. When he finished speaking, Jian Chen's second strike flew over with lightning speed. The simple stab seemed to be filled with the unpredictable mysteries of laws such that his attack seemed to possess a sliver of the might of heaven. Spurt. The early Overgod was unable to avoid the second strike. The startling rainbow sword pierced his head and wiped out his soul. Chapter 1865, Slaying 3 Overgods with the Sword, 3. Lu Shan and the other early Overgod had yet to return to their senses even when Jian Chen had claimed the life of the deputy by piercing a hole through his forehead. It was not just the two of them. Even the countless people in the city below and all the people from the Ling family were stunned. Their eyes had widened drastically as disbelief filled their faces. He was fast. Simply too fast. From when Jian Chen first struck out till he killed the early Overgod, the time that had passed was just far too little. It was so short that many people found it to be unbelievable. Overgods, even early Overgods, were indomitable existences to the people within the provincial city, as the strongest around were only gods. As long as a clan possessed an Overgod, the clan would be able to rise up to become one of the peak clans within a divine kingdom. However, just now, 2 strikes had claimed the life of an indomitable existence in their eyes. It had taken less than a few seconds or even just a second at most. Jian Chen claiming the life of an early Overgod in a single second had deeply shocked everyone. How dare you kill an Overgod of the Empyrean demon cult? Our Empyrean demon cult will never let you go. Lu Shan and the other deputy were shocked. They stared at Jian Chen in surprise as they tried to appear tough. Jian Chen had struck out suddenly and extremely quickly. He did not give them any time to interfere and save the person. Moreover, Jian Chen's strength had surprised them. He was so powerful that even among late Overgods, he ranked towards the very top. Jian Chen had indeed benefited greatly from his visit to the royal collection. The scroll with the notes on cultivation and comprehension left behind by a god king at the very least had allowed him to benefit a lot. He had gained some further understanding, allowing his laws of the sword to increase slightly once again. Of course, this was nowhere near enough for him to break through to the major achievement of sword spirit. He was still at the partial achievement of sword spirit. However, the increase to Jian Chen's battle prowess was evident. Jian Chen did not stop there. He drew out the startling rainbow sword and charged towards Lu Shan. He churned with sword chi and was unstoppable. Lu Shan became extremely stern. With a thought, he suddenly withdrew the black net over the sword-seeking province, forming a black rope in a split second. It burned with black, demonic flames, and as Lu Shan's arm danced, it struck out as a streak of black light. At the same time, the other early Overgod also struck out. A black spike had appeared in his hand. It was also covered with black, demonic flames as he used a truth-tier battle skill without any hesitation. The black spike instantly expanded to several meters in length. It gave off the powerful energy ripples of an Overgod. The deputy controlled the spike and stabbed it towards Jian Chen as hard as he could. It caused a shocking disturbance. However, even when Lu Shan and the deputy worked together, they were still not Jian Chen's opponent. The difference in strength was just far too great. Jian Chen cut the black rope controlled by Lu Shan with a single stroke, incapacitating his medium-quality saint artifact. Meanwhile, a mist of blood spurted from Lu Shan's mouth. With his second attack, Jian Shen stabbed at the other deputy with lightning speed, attempting to directly fend off the battle skill with a regular attack. Boom! The deputy's battle skill collapsed under Jian Shen's sword. A deep gash had even appeared on his spike that was also a medium-quality saint artifact like the black rope due to the startling rainbow sword. In fact, it was almost cut in half completely. Spurt. The early Overgod also vomited blood. His face became extremely pale at that moment. Facing off against Jian Shen, who had basically reached peak Overgod in an open confrontation with his strength, was like attacking a rock with an egg. Lu Shan and the deputy were greatly shocked. They glanced in shock at the cold Jian Shen, who was brimming with killing intent, and they made the same decision without any discussion. They immediately took out teleportation formation discs from their space rings and tried to activate it as soon as possible. A fierce light shone through Jian Shen's eyes when he saw that the two people wanted to flee. He snorted coldly, "Running won't be that easy." As he said that, the startling rainbow sword exploded with light. At that moment, the sword suddenly seemed to gain a mind of its own. It actually flew out of Jian Shen's hand automatically and stabbed at the deputy with great speed. Daluo sword. At the same time, Jian Shen bellowed out. He formed a seal with his right hand, and a golden sword chi condensed above his head instantly. As a golden streak of light, it shot towards Lu Shan like lightning. Jian Shen controlled his sword with his soul. The streak of white light that the startling rainbow sword had transformed into pierced through the deputy's forehead before he could completely activate the teleportation formation, instantaneously wiping out his soul. Lu Shan was not an exception either. Even though he had activated his formation disc extremely quickly, Jian Shen's Daluo sword was even faster. Lu Shan had failed to activate the formation disc completely before the golden sword chi had landed on his head. Under the rampaging sword chi, his head was directly reduced to dust in the air. At the same time, his soul failed to escape. All three Overgods from the Empyrean demon cult had died. None of them managed to escape. Countless people in the provincial city below raised their heads at the sky. They were utterly stunned. There were even many people who had become extremely pale. They had paled in fright from the great shock. In just a few short seconds, they witnessed someone kill three powerful Overgods with lightning speed. Many people even found this to be unreal. It was like they were dreaming. The shock they experienced was greater than anything they had seen in their life. Many people even began to think of the same thing. Overgods were actually so puny. Jian Shen stowed the startling rainbow sword away. His expression remained the same as before. He glanced down at the provincial city before stopping his gaze on the patriarch of the Ling family. He said, "The Empyrean demon cult probably won't just let this matter be. It's best if your Ling family is prepared to move for the sake of the clan's survival." The entire Ling family looked at Jian Shen in admiration and great gratitude. Ling Majian even bowed towards Jian Shen deeply with the rest of his clansmen. He said, "Our Ling family will never forget Senior's great kindness. We will consider moving seriously. After all, this matter is just too significant. We cannot make a decision on the whim." Ling Majian did not dare to mention Jian Shen's name. He was worried that too many people would learn of Jian Shen's name, and the Empyrean demon cult would learn about it too as a result, which would lead to trouble for the Tianyuan clan. However, he knew that it was impossible to keep this matter a secret for too long. If the Empyrean demon cult really wanted to look into it, finding the person responsible would be a piece of cake. However, the later they learnt that it was the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Shen, who did all this, the better it would be. Jian Shen did not say much. He removed the space rings from the three Overgods and did not even look inside before directly leaving the province. After Jian Shen's departure, Ling Majian stared at the elders by his side sternly. He communicated with them secretly, warning them to never disclose that it was Jian Shen who killed the three Overgods. The nearby divine kingdoms already knew that there was only the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan aside from Ling Hogong who had comprehended the laws of the sword. They could find out who claimed the lives of the 3 overgods without even guessing, so Ling Majian's cautiousness was basically unneeded. However, he still chose to do that. Chapter 1866. Preparations. News of the deaths of the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult who had surrounded the sword-seeking province spread like wildfire. It spread across the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian in the shortest time possible, immediately throwing the kingdom into an uproar. All the overgod clans were extremely shocked. They guessed at who it was that was bold enough to even kill people from the Empyrean demon cult. Moreover, the person in question had killed 3 overgods. Even to a great organization like the Empyrean demon cult, overgods were not nobodies. They possessed some status. Not only had the deaths of the 3 overgods become a hot topic in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but it even spread to the nearby divine kingdoms in an extremely short amount of time. Anyone who heard about it became stunned. They admired the courage of the person and was amazed by their strength. The person had actually killed 3 overgods in such a short amount of time. Even many late overgods would not be able to do something like that. Killing 3 overgods in just a few moments in a situation where one of them is even a mid-overgod. Is that person a god king? It's only a rumor. Maybe the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult really were killed by a single person, but it definitely shouldn't be as exaggerated as the rumors, where they say the person finished the battle in just a few seconds. It probably just got exaggerated as the rumors spread. Discussions appeared in various places. Over 90% of the people basically believed it to be an exaggeration, while the remainders all had their doubts about the matter. Shen has actually become so powerful. It's unbelievable. Commander Shen of the Royal Divine Army stood in the study room of his estate as he sighed in amazement. He could not help but think back to the first time he met Shen. Back then, he had personally witnessed Shen defeat Weiner Yen. He was only around a mid-overgod in terms of strength at the time. Only a few dozen years had passed till the next time Shen saw him, but Shen already possessed the strength to fight Yang Kai at that time. His strength had increased at an alarming rate. Yet now, Shen actually managed to kill 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult in such a short amount of time. Compared to when he fought Yang Kai, he was even stronger now. Is Shen's strength growing at all times? At this rate, he'll become a god king before long. Shen sighed emotionally. He did not listen to the rumors. Instead, he had people planted outside the sword-seeking province who knew the situation at all times. As a result, even though he could not say he knew everything that had happened in the sword-seeking province, he basically knew what had happened. Never, ever provoke the Tian Yuan clan from today onwards. At the same time, all the ancestor of the overgod clans in the divine kingdom of Pingtian sent down stern orders. They feared Jian very much. In the Yang family, the ancestor, Yang Kai, was still heavily injured from his battle with Jian. He did not have Jian's regeneration, so even after consuming healing pills, he would still need some time to achieve a full recovery. When Yang Kai, who was in his secret room, heard that Jian had killed 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult, he immediately sneered. He said softly, "How can you just kill people from the Empyrean demon cult like that, let alone 3 overgods? The Empyrean demon cult will never just let the matter be. Moreover, this matter should be somewhat related to a vice leader of the Empyrean demon cult. Jian, you've bitten off more than you can chew now. Even dying will become difficult for you." Yang Kai took pleasure in Jian's misfortune. Jian returned to the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. Currently, a barrier and formation surrounded the discussion hall of the Tian Yuan clan. Not only did it cut off any noises in the hall from the outside world, but it also stopped the entry of any senses of the soul. Jian sat on the patriarch's throne very casually in his white, luxurious robes. Below him sat 2 rows of people. There were over 20 of them, and they were of various ages. The youngest only seemed to be 14 or 15 years old, while the oldest already had gray hair and hunched backs. These people were the higher powers of the Tian Yuan clan. All of them were gods. Among them, the youngest was a white-robed young man. His face was cold, and his eyes shone brightly. He gave off a faint presence of slaughter. Even though he was still slightly baby-faced, many people cast fearful gazes towards him as he sat there with a straight back. In the years that Jian Shen had been away, the Tian Yuan clan had rapidly powered up. Many gods had joined the clan, taking up positions as elders. That was why there were so many gods in the Tian Yuan clan now. Jian Shen glanced down before stopping on the young man who only seemed to be 14 or 15. He could not help but smile as if he was relieved. This was because the white-robed young man was the white tiger. He had become a god now. Even though he was only an early god, even a few mid-gods seated there feared him. Aside from that, Shiyu, Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and the gods from the Nanyan clan, which was originally one of 3 great clans of the Dong'an province, were seated there as well. The Nanyan clan had completely become a part of the Tian Yuan clan now. Originally, they only joined in hopes of getting the support of an Overgod so that they would have someone they could rely on. However, in the years they spent with the Tian Yuan clan, they had benefited greatly. All the cultivation methods they used were Overgod cultivation methods left behind by Jian Shen. I believe you've all heard about the deaths of the 3 Overgods from the Empyrean demon cult. From today onwards, the Tian Yuan clan will probably lose its peace. I've gathered you all here today to give you a choice. Whether you want to leave or stay is completely up to you. I won't stop you if you want to leave, Jian Shen said sternly. A few of the seated elders hesitated. In the end, some of them chose to leave and break off from the Tian Yuan clan. Actually, most of the elders chose to leave. However, Nanyan Tong and the others chose to stay without any hesitation at all. They held great hopes for Jian Shen. They knew that Jian Shen had a way to overcome this threat. Moreover, the Tian Yuan clan had always treated them as one of their own. They gradually developed a sense of belonging in the Tian Yuan clan. Now that the clan was in danger, it was time for them to express their loyalty. Mo Ling and Ando Fu chose to stay without any hesitation either. The 2 of them were probably even closer to the clan than Jian Shen. This was because Jian Shen almost never managed the affairs of the clan. Every single brick in the clan had basically been laid under their orders. To them, this was equivalent to a new home. Jian Shen's face did not change when he saw that only 10 gods remained aside from the white tiger. He said, "All right. Since you don't plan on leaving and are willing to die with the Tian Yuan clan, I guarantee that if we successfully overcome this disaster, I will never mistreat you in the future. Shiyu, how are the materials that you've collected?" Jian Shen looked at Shiyu. Shiyu took out a space ring and gave it to Jian Shen. She said, "Patriarch, I've already collected all the materials we can gather right now from the elders. They're all in that space ring. Moreover, I've sent some people to other provincial cities to collect the required materials. I believe a second batch will come soon." Jian Shen took the materials and immediately entered seclusion. Chapter 1867, Lurking Enemies. Jian Shen sat in a room within the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan. He took out various materials from his space ring as he channeled the chaotic force in his dantian. He burnt it as chaotic flames to refine the materials successively. The materials that Jian Shen had asked Shiyu to collect were all for creating teleportation formations. The Divine King had said that there was no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult. Even if they en masse to deal with the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, the people from the empires would step forward to stop them. However, Jian Shen did not know whether what he said was reliable. Moreover, even if the Divine King was telling the truth, he could not place all his hopes on those distant empires. He needed to have a path of escape, so the Tian Yuan clan could avoid the devastating attacks of the Empyrean demon cult. Right now, there's a perfect method of retreat presented before me, and that's teleportation formations. I need to cast down teleportation formations in the shortest time possible. If the Empyrean demon cult comes, everyone can leave through the teleportation formation, Jian Shen thought. Several materials hovered before him. Chaotic flames burned on his hands as he refined the materials for the teleportation formation with all his attention. Fortunately, he did not have to cast a teleportation that could cross worlds, planes, or regions. He only needed a teleportation formation that could take people across to another divine kingdom, so it did not have to be high quality. As a result, there was not a great requirement for his mastery over teleportation formations. With Jian Shen's current grasp and familiarity over teleportation formations, he believed he would be able to cast down teleportation formations that could cross divine kingdoms without long. Naturally, there was not a great requirement on the materials to cast down a teleportation formation like that either. As a result, he had 100 sets of materials for teleportation formations. Every set was enough to cast a single teleportation formation. 3 days later, Jian Shen refined all the sets of materials for the teleportation formations. He did not stop there. He immediately began to attempt to create teleportation formations in the room. Boom! 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 In the following period of time, Jian Shen's room constantly rumbled. These were failed teleportation formations. The energy within the formation had lost control, hence causing an explosion. Although the information in the memory pearl had allowed Jian Shen's knowledge and grasp over teleportation formations to reach a whole new level, he was still a little off from creating it perfectly. Jian Shen needed to overcome this through learning from his mistakes. I haven't used enough sealing stone. The crucial points of the formation have been placed down incorrectly. This time, the formation's been activated too quickly, such that the teleportation energy became violent. It caused the entire formation to collapse. Jian Shen had already become disheveled inside the room. However, he persistently cast down teleportation formations without minding at all, ignoring any exhaustion. He was learning from his mistakes. Every time he failed, Jian Shen would deepen his understanding of teleportation formations. Jian Shen would gain extremely valuable experience as well. Gradually, Jian Shen's teleportation formations became closer to perfection and the number of times they exploded gradually lessened as well. Half a month later, when Jian Shen cast down the teleportation formation with the last set of materials on him, the gloomy room suddenly began to shine brightly. A powerful energy for teleportation filled the room. A formation with a radius of 5 meters appeared on the ground of the room. It was complicated and profound, giving off blinding light. It disturbed the space there, causing it to ripple with instability. Waves in space appeared. Success! Jian Shen's eyes shone with excitement. He had finally cast down a complete teleportation formation with the last set of materials. This was unlike the teleportation formations he had cast down on the Tianyuan continent. They were only markers so he could find his way back, like a beacon of light in the darkness so he would not get lost. However, the teleportation formation he had cast down right now could truly send people away. It could directly take them to another divine kingdom. Of course, Jian Shen needed to cast down a similar teleportation formation on the other end. However, he had now run out of materials. He needed to get more from Shiyu if he wanted to cast down a second teleportation formation. Jian Shen emerged from seclusion. When he made his way out, he discovered that Shiyu was already waiting outside. Aside from Shiyu, there were also the people who had come up to the Saints' World with Jian Shen. Houston, the White Tiger, Shangguan Mu'er, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, Rui Jin, Heiyu, Hong Lian, Nubis and Xiongzhong, Qing Jingyun and the others from the world of Forsaken Saints were all gathered there. Uncle Xiao, you've actually become a god. Houston looked like he was in his 70s, but his face was ruddy and brimming with energy. His hair was no longer snowy white. His hair which he allowed to hang loose had already become scarlet red. Coupled with his blood-red robes, he seemed to possess a demonic presence. Jian Shen was not surprised by the demonic aura on Houston. This was because he had personally given the Empyrean demon orb to Houston. Houston practiced the demonic arts from there, so he possessed a demonic presence. However, what he felt extremely shocked about was that Houston progressed just too quickly. It could be described as extraordinary. This was because Houston had not even reached godhood when he had first come to the Saints' World. In less than 100 years, he had already become a god. If the news made it out, it would be rather unbelievable. It's all because of what you gave me. The reason why I can advance so quickly is all because of it, Houston sighed emotionally. Only he understood just how precious the Empyrean demon orb Jian Shen had given him was. It was basically a treasure that changed his life completely. Whenever he cultivated, the Empyrean demon orb would invite the mysteries of the laws and personally pass it on to Houston. As a result, Houston's comprehension of laws progressed at an alarming rate. Mu'er, you're actually a late god. Jian Shen looked at the purple-dressed, beautiful Shangguan Mu'er and was surprised once again. However, Jian Shen understood very soon. Shangguan Mu'er was the mother of someone who possessed the innate chaotic body. She was blessed by the world, so her cultivation naturally would be extremely smooth. If she managed to survive, she would definitely become a great expert that was equivalent to immortal emperors. Jian Shen studied every single one of them and discovered only the white tiger, Houston and Shangguan Mu'er managed to become gods. Everyone else from the Tian Yuan continent had become deities. Only Xiongzhong and Qing Jingyun from the world of Forsaken Saints managed to reach early godhood. The other people were still at returnants. Patriarch, this is all the materials we've managed to collect so far. At this moment, Shiyu passed the space ring in her hand to Jian Shen. Her complexion was rather ugly. Jian Shen accepted the space ring and immediately frowned. Why is there so less? There's only a little more than 30 sets. Patriarch, we originally purchased for more than that, but some accidents happened to the people that we sent to collect the materials. Over 20 people had been killed along the way and all the materials were stolen. It's quite a loss. If it were not for Elder Houston and Elder Sacred Feather who managed to get some materials back, we probably would have even less right now, said Shiyu. A brutal light shone through Jian Shen's eyes when he heard that. Killing intent flickered and he growled, do you know who did it? Houston said, we still don't know who they are. We only know that they've sent deities or even gods against us. Sacred Feather and I managed to capture 2 gods and a few deities before, but they were willing to self-destruct to avoid disclosing their identities. Who's Sacred Feather? Jian Shen could not help but wonder when he heard Sacred Feather, as he had never heard of the name before. Brother, Sacred Feather's me. The white tiger said, originally, my mother gave me a name, but I don't like it, so I gave myself a name recently. Jian Shen nodded with a smile. The white tiger was extraordinary. Its bloodline was very powerful. It could directly break through to the origin realm even when the lower world was sealed up, so he probably possessed a great background. The word sacred was indeed suitable for him. Moreover, he possessed a pair of feathered wings, so the feathered part was extremely suitable as well. However, Jian Shen did not know that the white tiger was not actually a winged tiger god. The winged tiger god was only a name created by people from the lower world. Its true identity was a sacred feathered tiger emperor which possessed an extremely powerful bloodline. Clearly, the white tiger had adopted the first word of its species for its name. Jian Shen said after some thought, as long as they've reached godhood, whether they're deities or gods, they'll have some renown within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Have you found any leads? Shiyu said, we thought of that quite early on, so we already sent people to investigate. However, we still failed to find anything. It's as if people don't know about the existence of these godhood experts. Maybe they're not from the divine kingdom of Pingtian or any of the neighboring divine kingdoms. Shiyu paused. She hesitated slightly before adding, however, Nanyun Tong said that a few ancient Overgod clans possess some hidden forces. As a result, we're guessing that the Gohood experts who attacked us are the hidden forces from a powerful clan. Is it the Yang family? Or is it the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang? Jian Shen said softly as the light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. The only Overgod clans he had fallen out with were the Wainer clan, Yang family, and Mo family. Jian Shen directly ignored the Wainer clan, because they just did not possess something like that. Only the Mo family and Yang family were left. Of course, he had to consider the possibility of other organizations trying to create confusion. Chapter 1868, Shen Jian's return. You have to be careful these days. It's best if you don't get any clansmen to leave the Dong'an province. The current Tian Yuan clan is facing many troubles. A few organizations have probably decided to target us because they think we won't have any extra energy to deal with them. As a result, they're purposefully causing some problems for us, Jian Shen said coldly. His gaze was extremely sharp. The people of the Tian Yuan clan were being ambushed when they were collecting the materials. The matter had aggravated his killing intent. This was because the importance of the teleportation formation materials was evident to the Tian Yuan clan. It was directly related to the clan's survival. Shangguan Muir, Houston, Sacred Feather, and the others were all extremely stern. After they learned about the Empyrean demon cult's power, they all realized just how great of a threat the Tian Yuan clan was facing. Suddenly, Jian Chen's face changed. A sliver of joy appeared, and he said, "A friend has returned. Everyone, come with me to receive him." Jian Shen led everyone from the Tian Yuan continent out of the forbidden grounds and directly to the main entrance of the clan. A middle-aged man stood outside. He appeared to be in his 40s. His black hair was draped on his shoulders, directly extending to his waist. His appearance was nothing special at all. He was the type that would not raise any attention if he was left in a crowd. He wore a set of simple, black robes and carried a simple, black sword on his back. Spirit King. The Spirit King has returned. When Xiongzhong and the others saw the middle-aged man, they were immediately overjoyed. Excitement flooded their faces. The middle-aged man was Shen Jian, who had left several decades ago. "Shen Jian, you sure have chosen a bad time to return," Jian Shen smiled as he looked at Shen Jian. However, his smile was not joyful but bitter. However, he could already tell that Shen Jian was now an overgod. Shen Jian stared back at Jian Shen. His plain gaze carried a hint of sharpness like that of a sword. "I didn't plan on returning so soon originally, but you killed 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult, so I had to return," Shen Jian said calmly without any expression on his face. However, when he glanced past Xiongzhong and the 3 others, he nodded slightly. Jian Shen laughed aloud. "All right. Since you're diving head first into the problem, let's struggle with them together. Let's go. We'll talk after we go in." In a secret room within the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Shen and Shen Jian sat facing each other. There was only the 2 of them in the room. The Empyrean demon cult is powerful. Now that you've killed 3 of their overgods, they'll never just let the matter slide. How do you plan on dealing with them? Shen Jian skipped the small talk and asked directly. "Isn't my only choice to deal with it as they come? If I really can't do anything about it, we can only retreat. We'll move everyone away using the teleportation formations in the clan," said Jian Shen. He did not hide anything from Shen Jian, telling him all of his plans. At the same time, he told everything he had learnt from the Divine King to Shen Jian. Shen Jian said after some thought, "The problem is whether the Divine King's words are reliable or not. If it really is as the Divine King has said, that the people from the Empire will interfere once the Empyrean demon cult invades the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, we don't have to worry too much. Regardless of the truth behind the Divine King's words, we can't place our hopes on other people," said Jian Shen. He stared at Shen Jian brightly and said sternly, "I've already cast down the teleportation formation in the clan. However, I need to set up a formation on the other end. That way, we'll be able to choose a safe place to teleport to. Originally, I was worried that someone would attack the Tian Yuan clan after I left. I don't have to worry at all now that you're here." Shen Jian nodded. He said, "Go without worry. Leave here to me. However, activating the formation needs energy. There are so many people in the clan, so if you want to send them all away, you'll need quite a few divine crystals," said Jian Shen. He immediately took out the space rings he had obtained from the 3 overgods. After searching through them, he discovered that there were close to 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal in the space rings. Moreover, there were a few loose mid-grade divine crystals. "Keep the divine crystals with you. If the people of the Empyrean demon cult come, use the divine crystals to support the teleportation formation's operation. Shen gave Jian half of the divine crystals before leaving the room. Afterwards, Shen found Shangguan Mu'er and the others. He left all his other divine crystals with them before silently leaving the clan. He looked for a place to retreat to. The divine kingdom of Pingtian borders the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Past the divine kingdom of Qingyang is the divine kingdom of Dadian. Past there in a huge mountain range is the territory of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Shen flew as quickly as he could among the clouds as he thought about the path of retreat. With the power of the Empyrean demon cult, it'll be completely useless whether we retreat to the divine kingdom of Qingyang or the divine kingdom of Dadian. Looks like only the Heavenly Moon Empire can make the Empyrean demon cult experience some fear. I'll go to the Heavenly Moon Empire. Shen immediately used the linear lightning release after making up his mind. He turned into lightning and hurried off. Before long, Shen left the divine kingdom of Pingtian and arrived at the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He chose a desolate mountain and cast down a transfer teleportation formation in an obscure cave before continuing onwards. Ancestor of the Mo family, I'll be able to take back what's mine very soon. Shen stared in the direction of the Mo family from afar, and a sliver of killing intent flickered through his eyes. Afterwards, he turned into a streak of light and hurried to the divine kingdom of Dadian. Under Shen's full speed, he passed through the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He made his way around the foot of the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair and entered the divine kingdom of Dadian. He found an obscure location to cast down another teleportation formation before hurrying off to the Heavenly Moon Empire without stopping at all. There were a few obstacles along the way. He encountered the attack of several vicious beasts and also dove straight into a few formations cast down by bandits. Some of the bandits had even reached Lake God. However, with Shen's current strength, these obstacles were nothing. He dealt with them just by raising his hand. However, if he were a god instead, he probably would have died several times already. In the end, Shen entered the Heavenly Moon Empire after leaving the Tian Yuan clan for 10 days. He did not enter any cities and instead cast down the final teleportation formation in a remote mountain range just like before. Shen finally let out a sigh of relief after casting down the final teleportation formation. The path of retreat for the Tian Yuan clan had finally been completed. The Heavenly Moon Empire really is extremely distant from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even with my speed, I needed that much time for traveling. If a god wanted to travel this far, they'll probably need several years. Now, it's time for me to pay a visit to the Mo family, thought Shen before standing in the center of the teleportation formation. He activated it, and after a flash of intense white light, he vanished. Chapter 1869, The Ninth Army. After 2 teleportations, Shen appeared within the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Only when the bright light from the teleportation beneath him completely vanished did he step out of it. He directly departed from the obscure cave that held the teleportation formation. Near the cave, Shen seemed to become a cannonball at that moment. He directly shot into the sky to an altitude of 10,000 meters. He stood among the clouds. A map appeared in his hand. After locating the Mo family, he directly set off. The Tian Yuan clan faced the threat of the Empyrean demon cult. At such a time, Shen needed to increase his strength as soon as possible. If he wanted to achieve a breakthrough with his chaotic body, the energy required would just be far too shocking. He had not found enough resources yet, so a breakthrough was unlikely. As for the laws of the sword, he managed to make some progress in the royal collection. However, he still would not be able to reach the major achievement of sword spirit in a short amount of time. The only remaining thing that could increase his strength was the damaged piece of armor. Even though the armor was heavily damaged, it was still a god artifact after all. If he wore it, it would increase his defenses, even if it was just slightly. A tremendous city stood on a scarlet ground, surrounded by layers of powerful formations in the distant divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons as Shen made his way towards the Mo family. It gave off extremely powerful pulses of energy. Many armored soldiers stood on the walls, and there were a few people of various ages in luxurious robes among them. However, without any exception, all of them were haggard and exhausted. Droplets of blood covered their bodies. Some of them had even been completely covered in blood. It was impossible to tell whether it was their own blood or someone else's. This was the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, as well as the only thing left standing in the divine kingdom. The royal capital had become heavily damaged over the years of battle. Even with the protection of powerful formations at the level of God Kings, there were still huge cracks in various places. The ground around the royal capital had been dyed red by blood, which had formed streams across the battlefield. Countless corpses were piled like mountains as the heavy smell of blood lingered in the air. This was because the final forces of the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons had engaged in an intense battle against the Ninth Army of the Empyrean demon cult 4 hours ago. They can't last much longer. 3 gleams of light hovered in the sky above the royal capital. They shone like the sun as they gave off tremendous presences. However, the presence clearly only seemed powerful on the surface. This was the greatest force that the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons possessed, 3 God Kings. There are no reinforcements. There's no more hope. Fate wants our divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons to fall. The Empyrean demon cult is filled with wild ambitions. Their methods have been bloody and brutal. They've already wiped out so many divine kingdoms across the years. Why haven't the empires stepped in yet? The 3 God Kings hovered in the air and said softly. They were obscured by the blinding light around them, and laws of the world revolved around them too. As such, their figures became hazy and unclear. 10 kilometers before the 3 of them, black clouds hung in the gloomy sky. Demonic aura filled the surroundings. A group of soldiers in black armor stood there coldly. Even though there were not many of them, they pressured the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons to the point of suffocation. They were the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult. Even though the 9th army was only composed of 100,000 people, these same 100,000 people were enough to obliterate the huge armies of any divine kingdom. The commander of the 9th army, Yen Wuming, hovered in the air before his army. He also wore armor as his cape fluttered wildly in the wind. Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, we've already found the way to destroy your formations. I'll kill you all in a single stroke with the next attack. Let's go, Yen Wuming sneered as he gave off a demonic aura. He remained composed when he faced the 3 God Kings. He did not treat them with any importance at all. The 9th army retreated before setting up a base 100 kilometers away. Yen Wuming summoned some of his generals into his tent to discuss the battle. Suddenly, an illusionary figure of an extremely handsome young man in white robes appeared in the tent. Yen Wuming, it has been so many days already. Have you captured the person called Ling Hogong? As soon as the young man appeared, he stared at Yen Wuming as if he was judging him. His voice was cold. Yen Wuming's face sank. He slammed his desk and called out rudely, Protector Zheng, since when did I report to you? Who do you think you are? Do you believe that I'll disperse your soul projection with a single smack for talking to me like that? The young man sneered, Yen Wuming, you clearly don't have to report to me, but there's something I should tell you. Stop dragging things on like a woman. If you have something to say, spit it out. Once you are done, get out of my territory. Yen Wuming was extremely short-tempered. The Overgod generals in the tent all shied backwards. They did not dare to make any noise between Yen Wuming and Protector Zheng's argument. Vice Leader Huan has already emerged from seclusion. He's already looking into this himself. Yen Wuming, don't blame me for not warning you. If you don't handle the matter well, you'll be in deep trouble if the Vice Leader wants to blame someone. Throwing that down with a sneer, Protector Zheng vanished. Yen Wuming suddenly became stern after Protector Zheng left. He glanced below and said rudely, Lu Shan has gone for so long. Why hasn't he returned yet? Can't he even deal with a mere early Overgod? The generals below all looked at each other. In the past few days, their 9th army had always been engaged with the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons. Naturally, they did not receive the news of Lu Shan and his deputies' deaths. Report. Suddenly, a messenger ran in. He dropped to one knee and said politely, "Commander, I've just received news that General Lu Shan and his 2 deputies were slain by Jian Shen in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian." What? Lu Shan is dead? How dare he? Yan Wuming stood up. His presence churned as killing intent rose up. He said coldly, "Who's Jian Shen? How dare he kill a person of mine?" "Commander, this is all the information on Jian Shen." The messenger passed a jade slip to Yan Wuming. After reading through everything in the jade slip, he frowned. He growled, "This Jian Shen really is somewhat capable. It's extremely likely that he has the support of a primordial realm expert and has connections with a great clan of unknown power. No wonder he's bold enough to stand up against us. But, so what? Our Empyrean demon cult won't fear him no matter how great his background is. I need to take his life for killing a person of mine." Suddenly, Yan Wuming stared at all the gathered generals. He said, "Is there any late overgod willing to go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian and bring me the heads of Jian Shen and Ling Hogong?" The group of generals looked at each other. No one spoke out to accept the mission. A while later, an overgod stood up and said, "Commander, we've reached a crucial moment in attacking the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. If we send a late overgod to the divine kingdom of Pingtian at such a time, it'll definitely make the battle longer and decrease the might of our army. If the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons makes a final struggle at a time like this and attacks our army, we'll suffer heavy losses. And, I am guessing that since the person called Jian Shen was bold enough to kill our people, he might have the support of the royal family in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. If he really does have their support, sending 1 or 2 late overgods would be equivalent to sending them to their deaths. In my opinion, why don't we defeat the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons first and then advance to the divine kingdom of Pingtian?" Yan Wuming lowered his head and pondered for a while before saying, "All right. In 7 days, we will lead a full assault on the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. Once we've dealt with them, we'll immediately attack the divine kingdom of Pingtian." Chapter 1870, Orders of the Grand Elder. "Yes, sir." All the generals gathered in Yan Wuming's tent accepted the orders. Excitement filled their eyes as their battle intent surged. They liked to fight very much. "Divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, I'll give you 7 days to catch your breath. After those 7 days, I'd like to see just what else you have to repel my attacks." Yan Wuming sat on the commander's seat. Killing intent and bloodthirstiness flickered through his eyes. "After we wipe out the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, I'll personally visit the divine kingdom of Pingtian. I can't just let this matter slide now that my people have died in the divine kingdom of Pingtian." On the tremendous southern region of the Cloud Plain, there were some plains far away from the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons where the skies were always black. The Scarlet Land would never see any sun, and it was lifelessly barren. It was filled with a deathly silence as far as the eye could see. A majestic castle stood in the depths of the land that never saw light. The castle was extremely large. It was dark red as if it had been doused with blood. Even from a distance, there was a heavy smell of blood. The smell of death seemed to permeate the surroundings. This castle was the headquarters of the Empyrean demon cult's Cloud Plain branch. Even though the surroundings of the castle were barren, without any guards whatsoever, no one dared to approach where it stood. Even experts as powerful as Godkings would not dare to stand within 1,000 kilometers of the castle. Even people who had surpassed Godkings like primordial realm experts that only existed in legends to most people in the Saints' world did not dare to stand within 100 kilometers of the castle. Even to primordial realm experts, a range of 100 kilometers from the castle was a forbidden zone that they could never set foot in. At this moment, 3 people who were wrapped up in powerful demonic auras were on the highest floor of the castle. Only their figures were vaguely visible as they sat in the air. The demonic aura the 3 of them gave off was enough to shake the world. Their presences were so terrifying that even the expressions of Godkings would change. It was as if any single one of them possessed a devastatingly terrifying power within their bodies. Huayan, you've finally emerged from seclusion. You've been in seclusion for so long. Looking at your condition, you've made a full recovery, said one of the three people surrounded by demonic aura. He spoke calmly, without any emotion at all. It was not difficult to tell from the ancient voice that he was an old man. Ha ha ha, you're a mighty infinite prime, yet you became so heavily injured by a mere god king. It took you so long in seclusion to make a full recovery. Huayan, just that is enough for your name to leave a mark in history, said the second figure surrounded by demonic aura. Her voice was crisp and pleasant. She was female, and her voice was filled with mockery. Humph, Huaiwa, you probably won't even be able to do what I did if you fought against Duanmu. You might have even been slain by him, said the third figure covered by demonic aura. There was an evident sliver of annoyance in his words. Huaiwa giggled. Huayan, do you think that I'm an idiot? You struggled so much even against a god king. If I were fighting instead, would have killed Duanmu with a flip of my hand. You think you can deal with Duanmu with your little tricks? Huayan sneered. His voice was filled with disdain, and he said, Duanmu did not make it onto the god king's throne, but that was only because he was unwilling. He's powerful enough to make it into the top 100 ranks. Huaiwa, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but with your strength, who knows who would be the one who ends up dead if you fought him. The God King's throne recorded the most powerful, current God Kings in the Saints' world. Their strength was ranked among each other, and without a doubt, every single expert who could make it onto the throne, regardless of ranking, was an extremely powerful existence. Any single one of them could claim that they were supreme among God Kings. They were all famous. Legend had it that the top 100 God Kings possessed the power to take on primordial realm experts. Of course, these primordial realm experts were naturally the weaker kind. As for the people who ranked within the top 10, they would even have the supreme strength to kill primordial realm experts directly. I heard as soon as I emerged that Duanmu, that kiddo, has a successor now. Huayan, since you exaggerate Duanmu to be so powerful, I'll warn you out of good intentions. Don't end up dying in the hands of Duanmu's successor after surviving Duanmu, Huaiwei giggled. Enough. Stop bickering, an ancient voice rang out. The old man shrouded in demonic aura said, Huaiwei, Huayan, you must have received the Grand Elder's orders. As soon as he mentioned the Grand Elder, Huaiwei and Huayan immediately fell silent. The Grand Elder has ordered us to quicken our pace in collecting soul energy. Looks like we need to send out all 9 armies, Huayan said gruffly. If we do that, we'll definitely raise the attention of all the powerful organizations on the cloud plane. Those empires won't just stand by either. They'll definitely try to stop us, Huaiwei said sternly. Since the order comes from the Grand Elder, it must be the Great Elder's intentions as well. There's no need for us to fear. We just need to carry out the orders. Pass down orders to mobilize the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th armies. They will split off in 3 directions. Pass down orders for all protectors in the headquarters to emerge from seclusion and wait for further orders. The Divine Kingdom of Qingyang possessed similar strength to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They also possessed 2 God Kings, but the Divine Kingdom had been around for much longer than the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. The Divine Kingdom of Pingtian had only been founded for several 100,000 years ago, while the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang had already been around for over 1,000,000 years. The Divine Kingdom of Qingyang copied the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets of the Saints' world, so they divided their territory into 49 provinces and 81 major cities in hopes of borrowing the fortune of the Saints' world to keep on existing. The Blue River Province was one of the 49 provinces of the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang. At the same time, it possessed 5 provincial cities. The 5 provincial cities were similar to the 6 great provinces of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They were all places that possessed Overgods. The Blue River Province basically belonged to the Mo family. They were the absolute rulers there. Suddenly, an extremely powerful presence rolled out and engulfed the entire Blue River Province. At the same time, a resplendent sword chi shot over from the thick clouds with a dazzling glow. It disappeared into the province with lightning speed. Boom! A deafening sound immediately rang out from the provincial city of the Blue River province. The entire city shook violently. The protective formations of the city activated as soon as possible and engulfed the entire city. However, the formation shattered right after it appeared. Under the powerful energy ripples, countless buildings in the city collapsed, and thick cracks filled the streets. Ancestor of the Mo family, get your ass out here, a cold voice rang out in the sky, echoing through the provincial city. A white-robed young man stared at the city below him coldly. He directly emerged from the clouds, slowly descending from the air. To no surprise, he was Jian Shen. Chapter 1871. Powerful armor. The sudden occurrence shocked all the people in the Blue River province. At that moment, in the huge provincial city, everyone stopped what they were doing without any exceptions. They either stood in the streets or on the roofs of buildings as they raised their heads at the sky. They all stared at Jian Shen in complete shock and surprise. Who is this? He's asking for the ancestor of the Mo family as soon as he arrived. He's probably an enemy of the Mo family. The formation that protects the provincial city has already reached the level of Overgods. Even if an Overgod wants to smash through it, they'll need to exert some effort. However, the formation was shattered so easily before this senior. He's so powerful, he's an Overgod. He must be an Overgod and a powerful Overgod at that. Heavens, I'm actually so close to an Overgod. The stronger he is, the better it is. The Mo family has been acting as they wished within the province. Their wastrels always take women from the city. Who knows how many women they've dirted throughout these years. I hope the appearance of the senior will mean the destruction of the Mo family. Countless people discussed with each other in the provincial city. They all spoke very softly or directly used communication techniques. All the people in the Mo family had already gathered together. They stared at the sky sternly. Many of them were pale-faced, and their bodies were bloodied. Clearly, they were injured. Not only had the sword chi from before destroyed the protective formation of the Mo family, but its powerful ripples of energy had also injured many clansmen from the Mo family as well. Even the formation that protected the entire city had shattered loudly from the sword chi. The terrifying sword chi had left behind a permanent scar in the hearts of the Mo family. Many of them felt uneasy, and their gazes towards Jian Shen were filled with fear and shock. Jian Shen, you've finally come. I've waited for you for a very long time already. At this moment, an ancient voice rang out from the Mo family. It was calm and composed, no weaker than Jian Shen in terms of presence. A black-robed old man had appeared silently above the Mo family. He was calm. His black robes ruffled without wind as the powerful presence of a mid-Overgod radiated from him without any hindrance. Apart from Jian Shen, no one saw when the old man had appeared. Ancestor of the Mo family, we originally had no connections at all, but you should have never, ever taken my things. Jian Shen stood with his arms across. He stared at the old man calmly and said, "Are you going to hand it over by yourself, or do I have to come and get it?" The ancestor of the Mo family laughed aloud. He said, "Jian Shen, I have indeed underestimated you. I never thought that your strength would grow to such a level. However, so what if you're more powerful? That doesn't mean you can defeat me. If you want this back, you're dreaming. It stopped being yours a long time ago. It's mine now. If you have the ability, come get it." The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely composed as if he was fearless. Even when he knew Jian Shen was now a late Overgod, he showed no fear at all. "If that's the case, allow me to witness just what trump card you have hidden that makes you so confident." Jian Shen's eyes turned cold. The startling rainbow sword appeared in his hands in an instant. He directly stabbed it at the ancestor of the Mo family. The strike was as swift as the wind and fast like lightning. It illuminated the surroundings, instantly enveloping the ancestor of the Mo family. Sensing the terrifying power within Jian Shen's attack, the ancestor of the Mo family was no longer able to remain as calm and composed as before. He became extremely stern. In his eyes, Jian Chen's simple strike contained extremely profound laws and mysteries. His sword seemed to cut through the laws in the region and severe space, silencing everything in the world. Only the laws of the sword outshone everything. The attack had locked onto his presence, sealing off the space around him. As a result, he could not dodge at all. How has he become so powerful? Is he the reincarnation of some powerful person? The ancestor's heart sank. Originally, he thought that even if Jian Shen was a late Overgod, he could not be defeated with the protection of the God-tier armor. However, now that Jian Shen had really attacked him, he suddenly realized he had still underestimated Jian Shen. The ancestor of the Mo family bellowed out. His body immediately gave off a hazy, rainbow light. It was bedazzling. Armor appeared on his body. It covered him completely, only leaving his two eyes exposed. Boom! With a deafening sound, Jian Chen's startling rainbow sword struck the ancestor of the Mo family with devastating power right after he equipped the armor. The strike was extraordinarily great. It had completely reached the level of late Overgods. With the ancestor's strength as a mid-Overgod, it was naturally impossible for him to fend it off. His body shot off into the distance like a cannonball. Several kilometers away, the ancestor of the Mo family managed to regain control of himself after great difficulty. He only felt his organs fall into turmoil as they had been shaken up badly. However, there were no wounds on him at all. The armor had completely blocked Jian Chen's attack. How is this possible? Jian Chen's eyes naturally saw the armor on the ancestor's body in the distance. His eyes narrowed drastically. He could naturally tell with a single glance that the armor was the same, damaged god artifact the ancestor had initially taken away from him. However, to his disbelief, the ancestor of the Mo family had actually managed to repair the damaged armor. Even though it was only the surface that had been repaired and not the whole thing, it was still enough to shock Jian Chen. It was a god artifact and of quite a high quality as well. It was so damaged that it was just about to become completely useless. Repairing it would naturally be extremely difficult. Even infinite primes might not have been able to repair it, let alone an Overgod. Oh my god, the ancestor of the Mo family has been blown away from a single move. Is there something wrong with my eyes? This person is so powerful. It's said that the ancestor of the Mo family is a mid-Overgod, yet before him, he can't even take on a single strike. In the provincial city, the cultivators who saw Jian Chen blast the ancestor of the Mo family away with a single strike all gasped in amazement. Their faces were filled with shock as disbelief filled them internally. In their eyes, the ancestor of the Mo family was a supreme existence. He was the absolute ruler of the Blue River province. He was so powerful that even with the entire divine kingdom in perspective, he ranked within the top 10. He was an indomitable existence that they could only gaze at. However, the mighty ancestor of the Mo family was unable to take a single attack from Jian Chen. The huge difference shocked all the people in the provincial city. In the distance, the ancestor's covered face instantly became cold. Powerful killing intent flickered in his eyes as he thought, since Jian Chen knows the armor has been repaired, I have to kill him today. Otherwise, once he spreads the news, I probably won't be able to keep the armor. With that, the ancestor of the Mo family stopped hesitating. He turned around and fled into the distance. Jian Chen, I'm not going to tangle with you. With this, I'll be able to become a god king before long. Once I become a god king, I'll come to take your head and destroy your clan, the ancestor's voice rang out in the distance. He was purposefully instigating Jian Chen to come to pursue him. And you still want to become a god king? It's a pity that you won't have that chance, Jian Chen said coldly. His killing intent rose up as his presence surged. Chapter 1872, The Earthenfire God-slaying formation. The ancestor of the Mo family fled as quickly as he could. He seemed frantic, but he was actually extremely composed. A vicious light flickered in his eyes along with heavy killing intent. Jian Shen pursued closely behind. His entire body seemed to become a huge streak of light. He moved extremely, far faster than the fleeing ancestor of the Mo family. The distance between the two was gradually getting closed. Come. I've already cast down an absolute killing formation in an obscure location. It cost me a huge price to cast it. Even if you're a late Overgod, you'll struggle to break free once you get caught. Coupled with my attacks from outside, you're dead for sure, Jian Shen, the ancestor of the Mo family sneered. He was extremely excited. Once Jian Shen died, no one else would know he possessed a god artifact. He did not need to worry about the people from the Blue River province at all. After all, even some Overgods could not recognize god artifacts, let alone them. A powerful sword intent appeared from behind. It instantly enveloped the fleeing ancestor in light. Jian Shen had already caught up from behind. He swung his startling rainbow sword and erupted with powerful sword chi to kill the ancestor of the Mo family. Boom! Protected by the divine artifact, the ancestor of the Mo family was fearless. He did not try to dodge Jian Shen's attack at all. Instead, he used the might of his armor to endure it all. When the sword chi struck him, not only did he emerge unscathed, but the violent energy ripple even blasted him away instead, allowing him to fly forwards even faster. The ancestor of the Mo family's organs were in turmoil. They were shaken significantly. Jian Shen's attack was unable to destroy the god artifact, but whenever his attack landed on the armor, it possessed a great force as well. Clearly, the armor that only had its surface repaired was unable to redirect the force. As such, it directly passed through the armor and entered the ancestor's body. One of them fled while the other pursued. Very soon, they had crossed several million kilometers. They flew over many provincial cities and major cities, alarming countless people. The ancestor of the Mo family had already endured over a dozen attacks from Jian Shen. Each attack would shake up his organs. Even though he remained uninjured after all those attacks, it was still painful. In the end, the two of them arrived in a remote mountain range. Earthenfire God-slaying formation. The ancestor of the Mo family stopped running. His hands formed seals as he suddenly bellowed out. Instantly, powerful ripples of energy erupted from countless mountains. A huge formation appeared, enveloping the entire mountain range. Endless flames spurted out from the ground and filled up the air. Jian Shen's world had already become fire-red. The terrifying heat filled the surroundings to the point where even the air seemed to be burning. There was an endless sea of fire beneath him while clouds of fire floated above him. Jian Shen, you're done for today. Ha ha ha, the ancestor of the Mo family's arrogant laughter rang out in the surroundings. Right now, he could already taste victory. Jian Shen hovered in the sky calmly. He stood as still as a mountain. The terrifying heat from the fire surged up, but it did not approach him. If this was a killing formation on the level of God Kings, I really would be done for today. It's a pity that this formation is only at the level of Overgods. Jian Shen shook his head gently. Indeed, it's very difficult to kill you with just this formation. However, what if you add me to the equation? I personally cast down this formation, so I know it like the back of my hand. I can move through it as I wish. I only need to find the right time to launch a sneak attack. Meanwhile, you won't be able to harm me at all. The ancestor of the Mo family's voice rang through the formation. It originated from everywhere, making it impossible to locate his hiding place. As he spoke, the formation suddenly began to operate. The world filled with flames shook violently. The sea of flames rose up as a huge pillar of fire surged from beneath the ground. It turned into a vicious beast that charged at Jian Shen. It kicked up flames along the way, and the terrifying heat caused the space to warp. These were terrifying flames that were enough to pose a huge threat to late Overgods. However, with Jian Shen's battle prowess, even among late Overgods, he ranked towards the top. The threat of the attack had lessened as a result. He stabbed out. The startling rainbow sword shone with resplendent light as he produced a huge sword chi several meters in length. It shot out with lightning speed. With a boom, the huge, beast-like flames directly collapsed from Jian Chen's sword chi. The clash between the two attacks caused powerful ripples of energy to erupt. It actually caused the entire formation space to shake violently. It was also at this moment that a black sword appeared silently behind Jian Chen before stabbing towards the back of Jian Chen's head with lightning speed. Jian Chen's face did not change. He sneered disdainfully. Without even looking back, he directly stabbed backwards within a hair's breadth of the sword. Ding! The two sword tips collided together with extremely great accuracy. They separated as soon as they came in contact with each other. The armored ancestor of the Mo family had appeared within the formation. However, the ancestor of the Mo family did not engage in an open confrontation with Jian Chen. He immediately retreated with his sword, disappearing back into the formation in the blink of an eye. Jian Chen appeared where the ancestor of the Mo family was before, basically at the moment that he vanished. He stabbed out a few times at the empty space. Powerful laws of the sword erupted, causing the entire space to shake. However, he failed to force out the ancestor of the Mo family. Jian Chen, I may not be able to beat you in an open battle, but killing you is nothing difficult with this killing formation. The formation will constantly attack you as long as it remains in operation. I'd like to see just how long you can last. The ancestor of the Mo family laughed aloud. Your formation is a little too weak, Jian Chen murmured to himself. Suddenly, his presence changed. An extremely powerful sword chi surged from him as endless powers of the laws of the sword appeared. It all gathered towards him. Daluo sword. Jian Chen called out. He formed a seal with his hand, and a golden sword chi condensed above his head. It shot out as a golden streak. Boom! The golden sword chi struck the formation with devastating might. With a great boom, the Earthenfire god-slaying formation cast down by the ancestor of the Mo family shook even more violently. The ancestor of the Mo family took advantage of when Jian Chen struck out to sneak attack him. However, he was blocked again, and several strands of sword chi landed on the ancestor. However, with the protection of the armor, every single attack from Jian Chen was unable to injure him at all. It only shook up the ancestor quite a lot. Chapter 1873. The ancestor of the Mo family's death. Jian Chen ignored the ancestor of the Mo family and focused on smashing through the formation. He knew that it was very difficult to kill the ancestor of the Mo family without getting through the formation first. Golden sword chi constantly condensed above Jian Chen's head. Each strand possessed terrifying, devastating energy. In just a short moment, Jian Chen used the Daluo sword multiple times, causing the formation to tremble constantly. Before the fire attacks of the formation could approach Jian Chen, the Daluo sword easily dispersed them. Not only did Jian Chen use his great strength to suppress the formation, but he also handled the sneak attacks of the ancestor with great composure. Boom! 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 Deafening sounds exploded within the formation. Under Jian Chen's intense attacks, the condition of the powerful formation that could even trap late Overgods clearly grew worse and worse. The formation space distorted drastically. Vaguely, strands of light appeared within the fire-red world. This was the light from the outside world. The terrifying might of Jian Chen's full-powered attacks had almost ripped open the formation space. He had achieved this despite the constant disruption from the ancestor of the Mo family. Otherwise, Jian Chen would have never taken this long to get through the formation with his current level of focus. The formation is almost destroyed? How is that possible? Although it's very difficult to kill late Overgods with the formation alone, it can easily trap them for a few years. Coupled with me hiding out of sight and the attacks of the formation, killing late Overgods should not be a problem at all. Not only does Jian Chen have to deal with attacks from the formation, but he also has to handle my constant sneak attacks. His hands should be completely full. How can he still have the extra strength to destroy the formation? Jian Shen was clearly only an early overgod before, and his cultivation level remained at the level of gods. It has only been a few decades, so how has he become so powerful? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely shocked. He even experienced disbelief. He struggled to believe that a person's strength could increase so quickly, where he would make such great progress in just a few short decades. After all, it had taken him over 100,000 years to go from early overgod to mid-overgod. No, Jian Shen must die. If he doesn't die, I won't have a day of peace even if I keep the armor. The ancestor of the Mo family became determined. For the armor, he was willing to put his life on the line. Hidden within the formation, his arms moved slowly before him. He used a truth-tier battle skill. Demonic aura churned as a huge phantasm suddenly appeared. Its eyes were blood-red, and it gave off a chilling presence. Phantom God devours the heavens. The ancestor of the Mo family called out. The huge phantasm that was hidden within the demonic presence suddenly opened its mouth in that instance. Suddenly, a tremendous suction appeared from the phantasm's mouth. It seemed to be able to devour worlds, and it enveloped Jian Shen's body. Jian Shen's body immediately tightened. Under the influence of the suction, his body gradually moved towards the black hole-like mouth of the phantasm. Linear lightning release. Jian Shen's eyes turned cold. He did not retreat in the face of the suction. Instead, he formed a seal with one hand and turned into a bolt of lightning. He directly charged towards the mouth with unbelievable speed. With just a flash, Jian Shen had already entered the huge mouth of the phantasm. He tore through the demonic aura and emerged from the back of the phantasm's head. In the end, he collided with the formation. The huge phantasm froze, and its terrifying suction vanished as well. Strands of powerful, silver sword chi seemed to slice away at the phantasm's head. It flashed inside, growing more and more powerful and more blinding, directly drowning out the phantasm. In the end, the phantasm exploded with a boom. Sword chi scattered in all directions along with a demonic presence. It was also at this moment that Jian Shen slammed into the formation as a bolt of lightning. The formation had already shown signs of shattering from Jian Shen's previous attacks. Now that it received the ripples of energy from the phantasm's explosion and the attack from the linear lightning release, it had finally reached its limit. The entire formation began to collapse at that moment. Now that the formation was falling apart, the surroundings cleared up once again. However, the remote mountains had been reduced to a mess now. Many mountains had collapsed, and the ground was covered with cracks. The ancestor of the Mo family currently hovered near Jian Shen. He stared at Jian Shen, almost dazed. He had never thought that the Earthenfire god-slaying formation he had cast down after paying such a heavy price would be destroyed by Jian Shen so easily. It was a powerful formation that could keep even late overgods trapped for several years. Jian Shen's eyes locked onto the ancestor of the Mo family. Killing intent rose up from him, and he formed a seal with his hand. He used the Daluo sword to slice at the ancestor's head without any hesitation at all. Jian Shen, you can't do anything to me. The ancestor of the Mo family cried out. Powerful demonic aura emerged from his body. The laws of the world wove before him as he slashed out as hard as he could. However, without the support of the formation, it was impossible for him to be Jian Shen's opponent. Not only did his full-powered slash fail to block the Daluo sword, but the Daluo sword even managed to strike his head directly. Bang! The ancestor's body was launched far into the distance. Even though he did not become injured thanks to the protection of the god artifact, his head still spun, and he saw stars from enduring the powerful force. Jian Shen pursued him. He slashed as hard as he could with the startling rainbow sword as he formed a seal with his left hand. He used the Daluo sword again to attack the ancestor's head. The ancestor of the Mo family understood the armor extremely well, as it had been in his hands for so many years. Although foreign forces could not smash through the armor, the powerful jolts would still be transmitted through the armor and into his body. The armor covered every single inch of the Ancestor. Even his eyes were protected by a film, so Jian Shen could only transmit his powerful force through the armor to kill the Ancestor. Boom! Boom! The Ancestor only felt like his head was splitting open after enduring the 2 attacks from Jian Shen. His vision blackened as he felt like his skull was going to be shaken to pieces. The jolts through the armor were simply too powerful. He could endure it once or twice, but if he constantly went through it, his head would end up getting deformed regardless of his toughness. Jian Shen's attacks became more and more intense. He used the Daluo sword, Tai sword technique, and linear lightning release consecutively, essentially raining the Ancestor's head with attacks. The Ancestor had completely lost the ability to fight back. He solely relied on the armor's toughness to stay alive. Oh no, the armor is not as powerful as I imagined it to be. If this continues, my head will definitely be shaken to pieces by Jian Shen. I can't keep fighting. I need to flee, the Ancestor thought quickly and made up his mind very soon. He took out a teleportation formation disk as quickly as he could from his space ring and activated it. However, the formation disk was split in half by a sword chi, cutting off any hopes of escape for the Ancestor. Afterwards, Jian Shen clenched his left hand into a fist. He completely utilized the toughness of the chaotic force and struck the Ancestor's head. His fist like a huge hammer surrounded by chaotic force. The fist was extraordinary. The Ancestor's head hidden within the armor began to crack slightly as blood flowed from all his orifices. It was a horrible sight. Stop, Jian Shen. I'll return the armor. Spare me, the Ancestor of the Mo family called out. He began to plead for his life. There was no chance for him to escape. He did not have the time to activate another teleportation disk, and he was nowhere near as fast as Jian Shen. Now that his soul was injured, he would be doomed if this continued. However, Jian Shen ignored his pleas. He launched his attacks at full power, sending all of them towards the head. Finally, as blood spurted in all directions, the Ancestor's head was forcefully shaken to pieces inside the armor. It was a horrific death. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.